tonight's meeting to order. Let us all, hold
Public
on.
hearing first.
Let's have our public hearing first.
Thank you.
Getting a little ahead of ourselves. So tonight, 7 PM, Monday, January 23rd, 2024, a public hearing will be held to obtain the views of citizens concerning community development and housing needs as required by the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 as amended. The Village of Romeo will be receiving $2,500 in Community Development Block Grant Funds for fiscal year 2024?
2023, 2024, yes.
Okay, because it says two. I'm just checking.
Oh, yeah,
From the
20.
Macomb Urban
Starts
County
at 20.
Program. Federal guidelines require that maximum priority be given to activities which primarily benefit low or moderate income families, of which aid in the prevention of or elimination of slums or blight. A variety of projects are eligible for community fundings. We have them listed, and citizens residing in blighted areas or low-income persons are encouraged to participate. We had one official request, of which I did include in our packets here, from Samaritan House. Did anybody else want to speak at this time?
Oh, sure. Good evening. My name is Stacy Conti, and I am the Community Outreach Coordinator for Interfaith Volunteer Caregivers. With the number of older adults in Macomb County rapidly increasing and the need for support services due to frailties of age, chronic health conditions, or disabilities, as well as lack of assistance due to changing family structures is growing dramatically and will continue to do so well into the future. For over 30 years, Interfaith Volunteer Caregivers has been providing free basic assistance to hundreds of frail, older, and physically challenged adults, helping them to remain safely in their homes with the help of hundreds of volunteers. Such assistance has been helping older and disabled adults with transportation, chores, respite breaks, errands, and loneliness. These opportunities provide fulfilling experiences for those who wish to volunteer, as well as support for those in need. The CDBG Safe at Home project of IVC is part of our larger chore and repair program for older and disabled adults. This project was developed to provide additional chore and repair services in communities that allocate funding for that purpose. This product allows us to assist low to moderate income seniors and physically challenged adults with indoor and outdoor chores, minor home repairs, and routine housekeeping. We identify individuals who cannot do these tasks on their own and have limited resources and prioritize those with the greatest need. We are requesting the CDBG funds to increase the number of low-income citizens we can reach in your area, as well as grow our program and coordinate the volunteers who do these services. IVC provides over 20,000 hours of help over all of its services to nearly 500 people in need per year. While we've been able to support a few residents of Romeo over the years, including 5 last year, we would love to expand our support, including the Safe at Home project, further into the Romeo community. With our funding received from Romeo for this current CDBG program year, we are working to offer this important service to support the residents of the township. We hope for continued support for the 24-25 program year so that we can continue to build momentum and offer these services to more of those in need in the future. Examples of help through this project may be replacing locks, washing windows, raking leaves, routine housekeeping, and installing smoke alarms. With the CDBG funding, the project can grow and assistance can be granted to a variety of Romeo senior citizens and disabled adults, and the help is very much appreciated by those in need. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I appreciate your time, and any consideration for any amount of funding will go a long way, so we really appreciate it. If you know anybody who needs assistance, our number is 586-757-5551 or www.ivcinfo.org, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
You do, what was that called? You do
Yeah.
in-home repairs? I mean,
We do minor home repairs.
Minor home
Yeah,
repairs.
so like leaky faucets, changing light bulbs.
hot water heaters, do you go that far or not?
I'm sorry?
Hot water heaters for seniors?
No, that unfortunately, because the seniors are responsible for the cost more often than not for the home repair materials. We provide the labor and they provide the materials. They often can't afford the water heater, and we don't unfortunately have volunteers who have that skill set most of the time. It just kind of depends on who we have with what skill sets for volunteers at any given time, unfortunately. So normally.
Block grant dollars do cover hot water heaters.
Right, so
stuff
if we
like
were given, yeah, so we were given it in the community, we could use it for those types of materials. Unfortunately, we're not every community we don't receive funding for, so it just depends on the community. But it really just depends, I think, more so on the skill sets of the volunteers we have. If we have somebody who's skilled in doing hot water heaters, then we for sure would be able to help with that. But we are just neighbors helping neighbors. We don't train anybody or, require them to have any licensure for their skill sets or anything. So more often than not, it's just people who know how to do handy things in their own home, so would not maybe know how to do a water heater, but we have done them in the past. I'm not saying we haven't. It just depends on who we have available to help, and then with the CDBG block grant monies, being able to use those funds to purchase that water heater.
Sounds like you're on the edge, on the verge of it. Take that extra step and get into the bricks and mortar part of it. Furnace replacements, hot water heater, windows, all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, no, that's all important, for
yeah,
sure.
you get that far, you'll probably get more funding out of these communities with the block grant dollars.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. At this point, we do the minor, but we are hoping to extend and be able to help in bigger ways like that. So definitely something, we're looking forward to in the future.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You mentioned the Safe at Home program that you wanted to expand in Romeo specifically. Can you
Yeah.
tell me about that program?
So that is our CDBG program. So that's what we use our CDBG funding for. So Safe at Home, it's the minor home repairs, outdoor work, and then routine housekeeping that allow people to remain safely in their own homes who are seniors and disabled adults that don't have a lot of resources. So that kind of encompasses the whole program. Like I mentioned, we do other services like transportation, visits, things like that, but those three specific things are our Safe at Home program. It helps with the physicality of the actual home to be able to upkeep it and be able to live independently in their own home. So that's what the CDBG funds is specifically used for.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who do we have next? Go ahead.
Good evening, Madam President and ladies and gentlemen of the board. I'm Dick Rosenberg, longtime resident of this area, and I'm here tonight to present the grant application for Samaritan House. I've been associated with Samaritan House for 6 or 7 years now, currently serving as the chairman of the board, and so would like to begin tonight. And I guess I'd like to make 3 points. First, I think you have the paperwork in our application in front of you indicating we helped over 60 families in the village proper last year. So that's what we're about. There's some other statistics there. I think there's something like over 15 homebound that we provide food for. So that's really what the gist of what the presentation is. I'd like to make a couple other points. And in the past, I think I've talked a little bit about the Samaritan House model. And so often I think we consider food pantries, and particularly, we're a conglomeration basically of almost 20 churches in the area. These provide a lot of food, donations, support, volunteer support. And when you think of a food pantry normally in an individual congregation or church, so often it's a closet or a corner or something like that, and it's open maybe 2 Saturdays a month or something. People bring in food, and then it's distributed from there. But if you look at the first, the top page in the handout I passed around, over the years we've developed, if you will, a menu for people. So that when somebody, our process is people come in, we make sure they are in the right income brackets. They can present the paperwork for that. We make sure that they're tied in with all the federal and state programs to be sure they get as much support as they can. and then our goal is to provide them with a healthy selection of food. And so if you look at that piece of paper, on the left-hand side, you'll see about 25 items that I basically would classify as protein. So there's meat, there's eggs, there's cheese, all sorts of meat, pork, ground beef, chicken breasts, some, well, certainly poultry, and a little bit of fish. So just kind of trying to hold that. And so that's all refrigerated or frozen, so that has to be separate. And we purchase that. That's not donated, so it's only comes from the purchases or the gifts that we get from people. And we've been blessed, very frankly, over the last many, many years with substantial donations of cash from a lot of people. We run 3 fundraisers a year. We've got a spaghetti dinner coming up here in March, so we're looking forward to that. If you look then just at the top of the second column, you'll see the produce. And again, this is material that we purchase. So you'll see potatoes and onions and eggs, and they really have some big sweet potatoes at times. So it's just kind of interesting to see what is purchased and what goes out. And then the rest of it is about 125, I guess I'll call them hard goods. So you've got packages and cans and beans and all sorts of things. But we try to make sure that we're providing a healthy diet for people. If you come in and ask for 4 boxes of marshmallow enhanced Cocoa Pops, you're not going to get them. Fat chance. So we're trying to make sure that people get a healthy dosage of food. We provide menus in times that people need them. Sometimes people run into problems, and I'll say often because inexperience in that with budgeting, things like that. We provide that. And also the fact that when they come in, they talk to a counselor each and every time. They fill out their request, and while they're talking, that goes back and we pull the order so it's ready when they're done. But we ask them how things are going, and on occasion, there's times that people need things like help with appliance repairs. Occasionally, they fall behind in rent. If you fall behind in rent time after time after time, you're not going to get it. That's a one-time event. Can it catch you up? But those things happen, and so things happen to people. So we provide some counseling for them, and sometimes it's just like a shoulder to cry on, very frankly. So we try to provide that. The last point I'd like to make is if you turn the piece of paper over the last year over year, we've seen a 33% increase in need in terms of the number of people that are coming in for service. And you kind of wonder, why is that? Why all of a sudden an increase? Because when we used to be able to handle it, we would typically get a maximum of maybe 20 people a day. All of a sudden, we're having days where we see 30 clients coming in. And so that's like a 50% increase in what goes out and how we have to package that. But if you look at that, that's the inflation data for the last, since 2020. So through that COVID period. And you hear the government talk about things like an 8% overall inflation. If you look at that top block in yellow on the backside, those things have gone up 40 or more %. So look at some of those items. Bread, some of those staples. The next group down has gone up more than 20%. And you look at that, ground beef, chicken, those kinds of things. And so it's not, I guess, surprising if you look at it from that standpoint. So those are the things we're dealing with. Going forward into the next year, we are looking at adding some building to handle more input, so we get more throughput, because we handle just a tremendous number of items in any given year. So that's what I wanted to give you tonight, and if I can answer any questions, I'd be more than happy to. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions? Thank you, Mr. Rosenberg.
Thank you very much for your
Do
time.
we have any other representatives that would like to speak regarding, I never get it right, CBDG funds? Okay, hearing that, we will close our public hearing. Now we will rise for the pledge. Clerk Trapp, could you please call the roll?
Bartholomew,
Here.
Edwards,
Here.
Fowler,
Yes.
Care,
Yes.
Parker,
Present.
Rosso,
Here.
President Poznanski.
Here.
We have 7 present.
Thank you. Moving into the approval of our agenda. Do we have any adjustments or a motion at this time?
Yes, Madam President, I'd like to move J and K around on the new business.
For where would you like them, and
K come before J.
you just want to
Yes.
swap them?
Swap, yes, swap them up.
Gotcha. We have any other adjustments? If not, we are accepting a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Edwards, second by Parker. All in favor of approving the agenda? Aye. Any opposed? We have none opposed. Moving into our approval of our minutes for December 18th, 2023. We have a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll give you that motion, Madam President. Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Fowler, support by Parker, approving the minutes. All in favor of approving the minutes? Aye.
Aye.
We have any opposed? None opposed. Moving into our approval of bills. We have 2 sets of bills, one for the amount of $31,983.17, and the other for $182,018.44. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the budget. Support with,
I have a motion by Edwards, support by Bartholomew, approving the bills as presented. Do we have any discussion?
Did you say approval of the budget or?
the bills, I meant to say bills, I'm sorry. You're right, I did.
Just wanted to clarify.
We got you.
Thank you.
Hearing no discussion, could you please call the roll, Clerk Trapp?
Edwards,
Yes.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
I did not see you.
Sorry. I had a couple questions. Sorry, Mr. Edwards. On the Chase Inc. statement, there are 3 Amazon charges. Can I have a little bit of a description of what those are about?
one of them was printer ink for the clerk's printer. One was paper. We do get we have a subscription where about every 6 weeks we get a box of paper. And one of them was for envelopes for the Santa letters. We needed envelopes that did not say Village of Romeo on them.
Okay. And how about Kroger?
Kroger was candy for the Christmas parade.
All right. And then tapping, is it Tapping Solutions?
Yeah, that was, I don't know what that charge was, so I called and got it reversed. That's the second page in your packet showing that the
Okay.
reversal did take place. It will show up on next month's statement, but I just wanted to print it out as soon as the reversal came in.
Okay. So the account's not jeopardized, is it?
No.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that was our
I think it
initial
was one of
concern.
those trial things that got missed.
Okay.
Like, if you don't cancel in 7 days,
Okay, thank you.
but it got canceled.
Oh, and Thrifty Florist.
That will show up on the receipt will show up on the next statement. I believe that was a purchase through DPW for a funeral.
Are we all, questions? Done? Okay, could you call the roll now, please?
Edwards,
Yes.
Bartholomew,
Yes.
Care,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Rosso,
Yes.
President Poznanski.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
We are now moving into our special presentations. I'm going to try and wake this up. Our first presentation here is by our auditing firm, Gabbridge.
This is the stuff that's on C.
Lucky you so early.
This is the information we have in C. That is in C.
You received your audit report in your last packet, last month.
Okay, this is, okay.
And it's electronic.
I did
But we'll
prepare,
go, I'm sure.
yep,
yeah.
I did prepare a quick PowerPoint. I find it easier than flipping through all the pages and just go over some of the highlights. So, like every other year, the village received an unmodified opinion. It's the highest level of assurance you can get. It's what you should expect to get every year. If you didn't get that, the state would be sending you a bunch of love letters. Along those lines, there are also no noted internal control deficiencies that we had to report on, and no deficit fund balances or net positions that required a corrective action plan, and no budget deficiencies that also would require a corrective action plan. So that's always great to be able to say. At the end of the most recent fiscal year, June 30, the village ended with fund balance of roughly $11 million across all governmental funds. There's an increase of roughly $4.8 million. Most of that does come from the bond that was issued that was mostly unspent as of year end. The general fund, on the other hand, ended with roughly $4 million, roughly a little over $500,600,000 increase over the prior fiscal year, with an unassigned fund balance of roughly $3.8 million, which is almost 120% of your annualized expenditures. That's a healthy fund balance, but for villages, it's obviously going to be higher than it is you're going to see in cities and some other entities. So this is a graph just showing how that fund balance is tracked over the last couple of years, with the most recent year being on the left. I know sometimes that gets confusing. It's been trending up, obviously, over the last 4 years, so that's also great to be able to see that you're building up those reserves. Obviously, you know how quickly that can get spent down. You have to buy one fire truck or do capital contributions for that. It can kind of vanish really quickly. So the next 2 pages, there's going to be a comparative statement of net position, just showing how the balance sheet ended year over year. Some of the largest changes on the statement of net position were the increase in cash, once again due to that bond proceeds having been unspent. Saw a slight uptick in the receivables, mostly on the business type activities, just due to some catch up with Bruce Township, I believe. There were some outstanding bills that had to get caught up there. And the increase in the long-term debt with the bond issuance. And then the net pension liability I'll talk about in a few slides. It's also an increase for the most recent fiscal year. If we go to the next page, there's a comparative statement of activities showing the revenues and expenditures for the most recent completed fiscal year. Once again, mostly revenue stayed pretty stable, slight increases overall. Been seeing that kind of statewide with property taxes slowly ticking up. The unrestricted state sources also slowly going up. And then on the expenditure side, there was no really major changes. On the pension side, we did see a dip back for the calendar year 2022, which is what MERS operates on, which trails a little bit from the fiscal year. So due to the market performance at that point in time, you did see a decrease in that position. Obviously back below the 60% the state wants. I don't believe the ADC is high enough to trigger. You guys had to do a corrective action plan or a waiver, so that's always great, because those are really fun to do.
And we just got grant money to bring us back up to
Yeah.
current.
As I said, you were in that area where you were lucky enough to get it. And then on the next slide is the OPEB, which obviously tracks with your own fiscal year. So we don't see quite as big of a decrease in the assets there. So that's continuing to grow that funded percentage, which is always great to see. And that's really all I had to draw the council's attention to, unless if there's any questions.
Do we have any questions? I do not hear any at this time.
Well, I'd like to thank you all for your time, and if there are any questions in the future, Catherine knows how to get a hold of us, and we're willing to answer at any point throughout the year.
Okay, yeah, we'll pass on your email. Thank you. Okay, next we have Tom, you're up. Let me try and find your place here.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you're doing well. My name is Tom Matthews. I am the Older Adults Advisory Committee representative of Macomb County. I'd like to tonight share with you what the OAAC is and why it exists. Additionally, Commissioner Don Brown, who represents the northern communities of which Romeo is a part, appointed me to the extended work of what was previously called the Area Agency on Aging, formed in 1974 as a byproduct of the 1965 Older American Act to help our seniors. Now, let me stop for a minute. My research has shown that 26% of Macomb County represent people 60 and older. To give you a sense of perspective on that, the population of Sterling Heights is approximately 133,000. Add 60% to that, and now you see the magnitude of the number of people that are over 60. All of us over 60 have worked hard our lives, and we now want to have a secure life, and that security includes a multiplicity of things, from health care to housing to so forth. So now, let me refer to this chart that I prepared. The Older Adult Advisory Committee represents all 13 districts of the county. By that I mean, you'll see the names below, they're a little hard to read. This is an eye chart. I'm in the center at the top, so I represent District 1. That's all the communities in the north, which includes part of Shelby, Washington, Bruce, Romeo, Memphis, Ray, and Armada. Now, if you would drop down, Megan, thank you. It's a little hard to see. Let's go back. So the purpose, there you go, we can see there. The committee meets on a regular basis, and its purpose is to learn and inquire about challenges, trends, concerns, and opportunities affecting older adults in the county. And we communicate that information to the commissioners, and they then act on that information. Okay, so we can roll down a little bit. And if you can enlarge that, the first, just go to the third page. That'll make it easy, and I can speed this up. Yeah, just go down. Yeah, next one. There you go. Now, in 2000, that's good, that's perfect, thank you. In 2000, just a little higher, I'm sorry. In 2017, the Macomb County Commissioners formed the OAAC, and its purpose is to inquire of older adults in the commission districts, of which I represent District 1, and other interested persons about challenges, trends, concerns, and opportunities affecting our older adults in the county. And as I said, that information is communicated to the commissioners, who then do their work. Now, the first two functions, if you will, are my duties. I have to review and be aware of local, state, and federal agencies, their programs or documents, and their impact on older adults. Secondly, we study and research by means of meetings, conferences, public comment gatherings such as this. Let me stop for a moment. My purpose is to communicate the existence of the OAAC. So obviously not all 4,000 people that live in Romeo are in this meeting room. Hopefully this information will go out to them so that they can be well served to understand what the county does for them, and will continue to do for them with their input. Now, I'll come to that in a minute. Okay, so we do this research, and it goes back to the commissioners. Now, in February of this year, Commissioner Brown told me that we would be putting out a brochure. And Mike, you've asked me about that. I'll make every attempt to get that to you so that we can distribute it to the community. So far, I've been to Washington, and I've been to Bruce, and Mike was most pleasant and accommodating. My goal now is to visit all the communities in my district. That's the first job I've been given. The second one now involves 6 counties. Maybe we can drop down to the next slide. Okay, let's go up a little higher. So Age-Ways Nonprofit Senior Services used to be called the Area Agency on Aging. It's a 6-county group. Listen to this. They serve over 600,000 people in those counties. I encourage you to go on your website. You'll be amazed at what they do. Last Monday, I had an orientation meeting with these people. I have an MBA, and I was a technical manager for a large company. I was blown away by what they do. It's outstanding, and their people were extremely impressive, from their CEO, Michael Carson, all the way down. These people are here to serve our needs. They're federally funded nonprofit. If we're going to pay our government taxes, let's get the benefit of it, okay? So I think that quickly it just summarizes we support older adults, people with disabilities, family caregivers, and so forth. The website is phenomenal, okay? Now drop down a little lower. Now, I am on that advisory council. This is an older slide. So you can see there's representatives from each of the 6 counties, which is Macomb, St. Clair, Oakland, Livingston, Washtenaw, and Monroe. So, for instance, look at the gentleman up near the top, University of Michigan School of Social Work. These are big-time hitters that provide this input to this organization to better serve the needs of our older citizens. President Posnanski
Close.
has my business card. Let's see. I will also be visiting the senior centers. I've had discussion with Matthew December. He's the director of WBRW, and I may visit MIT-TV. I'm going to make every attempt to communicate this work so that you are well served. That's why I'm here. And by the way, I'm volunteering. This is my time. Doesn't bother me. I'm working for you, and I'm working for God. And I'll tell you that right now. So let's see. Are there any questions, or am I allowed to take that?
Yeah, you could direct questions to the board.
Okay. Are there
Do
any
you have
questions? Okay, very good. So again, we'll get this brochure out to you, and you have my business card.
Yes,
If there's
sir.
any questions, please work back through Megan, and I'll be glad to do what I can. Thank you very much. Can I leave you with a quoted passage from a relatively famous American? Okay, it goes like this. How far you go in life will depend on how tender you are with the young, compassionate with the aged, supportive of the striving, and tolerant of the weak and strong. Because someday in your life, you will have been all of those. Unquote. You know who the author is? George Washington Carver. Okay? And by the way, he was the first black man to have a national park named in his honor, a well-deserved honor. By the way, he was born in 1874 into slavery. He lost his father at an early age. Some years later, his mother. He was raised by the Carvers. Consequently, he acquired his name from them. So adversity can be overcome, whether it's healthcare or anything else. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom. We appreciate your passion. Okay, moving into our last presentation, the green space. Let me find your slide here. You could turn the heat up, that one right there.
Tim, can you turn the heat up? Just turn it up a little. It's a little chilly in here. Okay.
Don't want to edit, I want to view.
I do feel like
In my feet.
a draft comes from that room.
I know, so I put my paper over here, it got blown off.
Slideshow. Okay, got it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, good evening. We've met before, but I'm Donna Folan. I'm a resident of Romeo, and I'm here representing the Green Space on Prospect Street, a community group that many of us are here tonight. And we want to take advantage of the opportunity to preserve the former middle school at 297 Prospect Street, and I appreciate the opportunity to come and give you all an update. Next slide, please.
Yep.
Thank you. So anyway, just to review what we've discussed before, our green space vision for the former middle school property. Public green space that welcomes everyone. We would like to recommend low cost, low maintenance, native habitat, some mowed open space for open play, trees, maybe looking into developing an arboretum of native trees. It's on a steep slope, and you know, we've got lots of stormwater runoff, so we could be looking at green infrastructure solutions for that, which is beneficial for the whole area. And minimal development, but what is developed being universally accessible, those improvements, you know, paths, connectivity to the village sidewalks, benches, and then just providing spaces for wellness, exercise, relaxation, and socialization. We'd love to see a place where there are educational opportunities for the schools and other groups to use it, honoring its long history as a place of learning, and just complementing and enhancing, you know, the historic village. Next slide, please. So as we're also discussing our longer-term vision for the group, we would like to be a resource to the people of Romeo and to the board. The things that we can offer is organizing community support for public green spaces, fundraising in partnership with the Community Foundation, and helping to organize volunteers. Excuse me, I gotta take a drink. And technical support, planning, grant writing, help, those sorts of things. We believe that with successful acquisition of the Prospect Street property, we would like to broaden our focus to the improvement and stewardship of green spaces throughout the village. So as this graphic shows, we would like to morph from green space on Prospect Street to green space Romeo. And when at that phase, we would be interested in supporting green space improvements throughout the village. I would say an initial focus on the Sisson Street property, which has already been acquired and could use some investment, and then the Prospect Street property. Taking as much time as we need to develop those low-cost, low-maintenance, universally accessible improvements, and then a long-term stewardship of those public green spaces. We would like to be there for you to help with that. Next slide, please. So why does green space matter? And this is a discussion that's happening all across the country. It promotes health and wellness, provides space for play, educational activities. Unstructured play is very important to childhood development, welcoming everybody, which strengthens our community, and then providing essential infrastructure to build community resilience for climate change, natural disasters, and to be an economic opportunity driver. More of that on the next slide. And then quoting from a recent article in the National Recreation and Parks Association, NRPA's magazine in December, that green space attracts residents, attracts businesses, and helps to retain both of those, and kind of sets up a cycle with developing a quality of life that brings and keeps folks and businesses. Next slide, please. So as you know, I work with parks in Oakland County and am active in the state. All around us, we're having lots of successes in preserving green space. In Macomb County, Washington Township recently purchased the Hawks Acres Farm, which is pretty exciting. That shows their commitment to community green space. And the Natural Features, actually, sorry, it's the Natural Resources Trust Fund. The state grants were approved, 3 were approved in Macomb County this year. A significant acquisition in Macomb Township, and then a couple smaller projects in Sterling Heights and Shelby Township. Next slide, please. So we have had our website up for a couple of months now, and have had a really good response to it. This is a little sprinkling of comments. I'm not going to read them all out to you from some folks, but it's just a small sample of people, pledging money, being excited. I like the first one is a person who says, I don't currently live there, but I want to live there, so I'm supporting this project. People wanting to preserve the character of the historic area. And we're hearing from a lot of people who went to school there and are interested for that reason. So lots of interest. We have our distribution list is about 140 people right now, and it's growing every day. Next, please. Thank you. Our fundraising activities. Pretty exciting. We've had an anonymous donor step in and offer to match pledges, donations, dollar for dollar, up to $150,000. So to date, with our pledge to match, we've got $40,000. We need to bring in another $130,000 to meet that match. We have set the granted arbitrary goal of $500,000 that we want to raise. So we've got a ways to go, but we have a lot of opportunities in front of us. What is needed for the acquisition, we don't know that. That's for the village to negotiate that, and then what sorts of additional grants and donations would be needed to acquire property, once again, another Next slide. So what's next? And what's next is we need you. We are requesting a statement or resolution of support, that if the resources are in place, as you know, we're going to try very hard for them to be, that you do intend to preserve the property, and that you support our efforts. That statement is really important for us to continue our fundraising efforts. You know, in order to finalize our agreements with Four County Community Foundation, they said, we really need to have a statement from the village that they are supportive of your efforts. As we continue building the vision, we need collaboration with the village and the Board of Trustees. At our last larger community meeting, there were a lot of people saying, we really want the village to be here with us as we're talking about these things. So we would love to look forward to collaboration in those efforts, and then your communication with the Board of Education is, of course, essential. For our group, what do we need to do next? To continue developing that green space vision, to finalize the fundraising agreements. We need to finalize pledge agreements with all parties, and I think that, and that includes the village. I came to the Green Space Committee meeting, and that was very clear from the discussion we had. The people who are pledging and donating need to know that their money is going to go, is going to the cause. If it doesn't work out, they haven't lost it. You need to know the money's going to be there on time. So I think the village needs to be a partner in figuring out how those pledges will be fulfilled. And then we're going to continue donor development, and we're going to start having some fundraising events next month. And the next slide, please. Another pretty shot of the property. And I thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions or comments from the board?
I have a question. What are some of the fundraising events coming up that you're having?
Well, we're still planning them, but we would like to have 2 or 3 smaller sort of major donor events, and then in March, we're having discussions about having a larger public fundraising event. So there's no commitments at this point, so I can't really, tell you the venues we're looking at, et cetera. But we've got some folks that have stepped up and said, I would like to host an event.
Nice, thank you.
So, and hopefully we'll see y'all there.
Thank you.
They haven't given you an exact purchasing price, or?
Well, we're not involved in the negotiation for the acquisition of the property.
Have
So the village would negotiate that with the Board of Education.
As I understand, they were talking with some general contractors to do a development. What was the numbers there, do you know?
I've heard a variety of numbers from the beginnings, from
It was a little over 8,
Yeah.
800,000?
a little over 8.
Okay.
and that was with fully developing it with the 17, right? And also the abandonment of the right-of-way, which, isn't going to happen, so.
So you'd be looking for us to be the lead, as I'm reading here, as far as in the negotiations?
You would be the one buying the property.
Yeah, we're the entity involved, so.
We're not
we have
able to
this-
do that.
Yeah, we have this as an agenda item, so we'll be able to answer a lot of those questions a little bit more in detail when it comes to that. But, yeah, we're the entity that would have those conversations. They're more of a community citizen group. So they're working with a lot of the fundraising and planning as far as that's concerned, but that's kind of where they need us to facilitate more of that organization and communication.
I mean, we want to help bring the resources to the table, and we are in communication with, Macomb County and the Land Conservancy and various groups, but they really need, to have that statement of intent from you in order to move forward so that we can all be at the table together.
And that's the part I like, is at the table together, as opposed to sticking the village out there. I mean,
No, totally. But we,
With
but
what I-
we can't go there without you.
Yeah, with what I was
Yeah.
reading, we were responsible for this portion, and
Yeah.
I'd like to see it on both sides.
Oh, yeah,
The
no, we're,
communication aspect as far as dealing with them, instead of just the village
if you,
itself.
if you invite us in, we're there.
Well, I think it should be in writing so we can all agree upon it.
Sure,
That's the way it should go.
absolutely. Yeah, we totally would want to be there.
I think you're saying the same thing. Okay, we're all set? Thank you. Okay, moving on, we have our correspondence, we have none. Into our public comments. Now is the time. Yes, Tom? At public comment, sure. Yep, public comment is 3 minutes long. Now is the time to speak. Yeah, go ahead.
Hopefully I'll find my way home tonight. Three things I wanted to add to my presentation. Prior to July of this year, or last year, I had no idea these organizations existed that I mentioned. And when you're in need of help, whether it's housing or medical help, you don't want to wait till the last minute. So I encourage you to go to the websites of these two organizations, the Older Adults Advisory Committee and Ageways, and see what they have to offer now. Okay, the second thing is we have meetings every month in Mount Clemens. Sometimes these meetings have been at the senior centers. We've had them at Shelby, Sterling, and so forth. I encourage you, please come. Sometimes we get 2, 3 citizens there. That's not enough. We need your voice. And lastly, I had proposed to our commissioners that we conduct a statistically based sampling survey. For instance, let's say your population is 4,000. We would send out 400 surveys that are representative of the citizens based on age, whether they're married or not, socioeconomic status, et cetera, with a predefined questionnaire. You fill it out, you send it back, and now we got your input. That's what we need. We need community input, community awareness to do a better job. Thank you very much. God bless you all.
Thank you. Okay. Continuing our public comment, now is the time for public comment. 3 minutes. Step up to the podium. Is anybody keeping track?
This will be quick. Hi, I'm Ken Sarver. This is Vivian Sarver. We live at 284 West St. Clair Street. And we've only been to a couple of these, so if you guys have already gone over this, you can tell me. The home next to us, 276 and 277,
278.
or 278,
It's a duplex.
is blight, outright blight. Backyard, the whole house, there's somebody living there since the house has been sold. Who knows what kind of animals are in there? And I have emailed, and we've sent, many times we've sent stuff to the state and to the city. Nobody's replying. And we have kids, and there's a lot of kids in the neighborhood, and it's like, nobody's contacting us, and that's why we're here tonight. We need to know what's going on.
Well, I can tell you it is being addressed. I
Okay.
can't tell specifics. That's kind of
Like,
in-house
how
stuff.
is it being addressed? What's been going on? I need to know that.
There's certain things that I can't disclose without a FOIA.
But if I
But
got
it
an
is-
attorney, could they get that from you?
Yeah, or you could too. You
Because
could-
my, no,
you
I
could
mean,
fill out a FOIA.
from you guys, because we have, that's dangerous. The guy that's living there, I don't even know who he is. Okay, there's no electricity, there's no water. The fire department was there checking it out because there might have been a fire, who knows? These homes go up quick. And I'm really not, it sounds like I'm angry, but I'm more concerned
No,
that
we
this
hear you.
is how blight starts, when nothing happens.
Yeah, and we're addressing it, and there's certain laws and things we have to abide by. So as we're taking steps, it might look like we're not doing stuff,
Okay.
but things take time.
Okay, the
People
next
have
time when I
rights,
email, could
so-
somebody please email me back or send us some information so we know that you're not just ignoring us?
If you came into the village hall and filled out a FOIA form,
Oh, we did it online, because there's an online form that we fill out. We've done a couple of those. I did it with the state. Nothing,
The county, we did.
I mean, the county, nothing ever come back.
Have you received anything?
How about the emails? Nobody got the email?
There's a go to our clerk?
Are you
or
sending them to the
president?
village? Or
They
to the,
said-
because if they go to
It
the
went through-
state,
I
we're
think
not
it
getting
was
it.
Joanne or something, she said she was sending it to you guys,
Okay.
and that you would get back with us.
She has not.
I have.
No.
Also, nobody's heard anything about this then. Okay. I just need
Well,
to know
this is
that.
our first time then addressing
is.
you
I
on,
mean,
you
just-
know.
and-
But
and
I
just so
mean,
you know.
we have sent,
Yeah.
and there was like a text thing that you could do.
Yeah.
So I've done that several times.
And I'm
and
sure
sent
everybody knows
pictures.
which house it is.
Yes,
And
sir.
if you lived next door to it, trust me, you'd be as concerned as we are. I mean, we don't want rats. I'm telling you. Somebody, the guy that's living there told us that the reason, I think his name is Patrick, I don't even know. He said, well, he was told to live there by who? I don't know. He said because they were getting squatters, but I think he's a squatter. I don't know the squatting law, but
Yeah. You could also put a FOIA into the Romeo Police and get
I
on
did.
that end.
we've gone to them a few
Okay.
times.
Called them, yeah.
There is a documentation.
I'm telling you,
So we
we've
need to
gone.
come in and fill out something more.
Come in and see our
Personally.
clerk.
Yes, because we can't just disclose
Okay.
private
Okay.
information.
I'm sorry, I know that was over 3
Nope.
minutes, but
It was good.
thank you.
But just so you know, it is at least being addressed and we're following protocol and we're getting
Okay,
Thank you.
that's all
Somewhere.
we need.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do we have any other public comment? Mr. Philbrook.
Good evening, Honorary Board, members of the community. My name is Mike Philbrook. I'm the supervisor of Bruce Township. I have with me Frank DiGiorgio and Chief Nakis with me. I'm only here for clarifications. We're not an agenda item at all, so if the board gives us a few minutes to go ahead and maybe clarify a few things. Mr. Giorgio, Nakis, myself, were on the negotiating committee with the fire and ALS contract. We did watch your meeting in December, and it seemed to be like there was a lot of questions and unanswered questions. Maybe we could clarify a few of those. One of them is I know that it was stated that there was only 2 meetings that we've had during negotiations with the members of the village. Currently, we've had 6 negotiation meetings. We had one scheduled for the November 7th, one was scheduled last week. It was canceled. We have that new date for tomorrow, so we've had at least 6 meetings, not 2. It was stated that there were no hard numbers given to the village. We've given the village every number we could. We gave them our budgets, we gave them how many runs we made, we gave them how much we collect in our revenues from the residents in Bruce Township, the revenue from the residents in the village of Elmont. We cannot come up with any more numbers that we can produce. Anything they've asked for, we produce to the negotiating committee. The question was also asked if if we would separate our fire and our ALS from our fire department, just to offer the Village of Romeo a fire contract. We did take that to our board. We did vote on it. Our board decided against it, that we would prefer to keep our fire and ALS together. We have a fire and ALS department. We've got a really good fire and ALS department. We got some of the best medics that are highly trained in advanced cardiac life support. They train regularly, pretty much daily, in order to provide a great service to our community and our residents. So I know that it was talked about possibly about the Village of Romeo trying to get into like a private ambulance service, which I don't quite understand why you'd want to do that and give up. You're still going to have to pay for a private ambulance, and I don't think a private ambulance is going to give you the cost benefit of the savings that you would be looking for, because you're still going to pay for fire. And then with the private ambulance, you're going to get one ambulance where we provide 5 ambulances with manpower and great, training and, manpower for that reason. If the private service is running a patient to the hospital and you have back-to-back calls, which happens quite regularly in the village, your second ambulance may be coming from the village of Richmond or Richmond Township, as far away as that, maybe 20, 30 minutes, and you got a family member having a heart attack, that's uncalled for. Our run volumes, our run times to the Village of Romeo are right around 4 minutes. A lot of times they're less than 4 minutes. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything better. The only thing that Bruce Township's trying to do is we're just trying to make sure that everything is fair for all of our residents, not just the Village of Romeo's residents, but also for the Bruce Township's residents. We're just looking at everybody just pays the same. Currently, Bruce Township, we charge a millage to our residents. For the ALS, it's 3.29, and for fire, it's 2.24 mils. I'm not going to try to complicate things at all, but we collected annually $2,460,000 in revenue from our millage that we send out to our Bruce Township residents. That's not the Village of Romeo's residents. We have 3,071 billable parcels in Bruce Township. So if you take 3,071 billable parcels and divide it by the $2,460,000, it comes out to $800, $801 average per resident in Bruce Township. The money that we collect from the contract that we currently have from the Village of Romeo, we collect $551,000 a year. There's 1,542 billable parcels in the Village of Romeo. If you divide that by 551,000, it comes out to $357 a resident. There's a substantial difference, obviously, between what the Village of Romeo's residents pay and the Village of Bruce Township's residents, about $444.
Excuse me, Mr. Philbrook. Can you wrap it up 30 more seconds?
Sure. So anyways, we have about a $311,000 shortfall in our budget. I know it's been said that why don't we charge the Bruce Township residents a little bit more in their millage. I don't think it's really fair that we charge more to the village, or to the Bruce Township residents to subsidize the Village of Romeo's residents. But we're just here to clarify that. I know that the board had a lot of questions. We're all here. If anybody has any questions, we would love to clarify. We got nothing to hide. We got all the factual information, documentation. So if there's any questions, feel free. My door is always open. You can call me. I can give anybody my phone number. It's 586-318-2823. Frank DiGiorgio, Chief Nakis, anybody, would love to hear from you. So we're just trying to do what's fair on behalf of everybody in the community. So thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment?
Hello, I'm Betty, live in 356 Benjamin Street. I am part of the Village of Romeo Tree Board, and we are looking for ideas for our Arbor Day. We're having a special brainstorming meeting. It was January 23rd, but some emergency came up within the meeting, within the group, and now it's January 23rd at 7 p.m. in this building. I don't think it's going to be televised because most of ours aren't.
I'm sorry, it's the 30th.
Yeah, the 30th. What did I say?
You said 23rd again. It's okay.
No, it's the 30th. It originally was the 23rd. Now it is the 30th.
Yep.
So we're inviting the public. Anybody who wants to help with Arbor Day or has any ideas with Arbor Day. And we cannot add trees to parks that aren't officially parks yet. For like the Sissons and the, not Croswell.
Prospect?
What?
Prospect?
Not Prospect. Yeah, Sisson Street and Prospect Street. I got those drawn up, mixed up. But we just wanted to let everybody know that we were looking for ideas.
Thank you.
Thanks, Betty.
Mr. DiGiorgio?
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Frank DiGiorgio, Treasurer of Bruce Township. I'm going to pick up where Supervisor Philbrook left off. But there's a difference of $444 between Romeo residents and Bruce Township residents per parcel is what the average amount comes to. Bruce Township Fire Department, our annual expenses are probably about $3.3 million. And that's for payroll, wages, and benefits. Department operating expenses like the repairs of and purchase of apparatus, vehicles, and the fire stations. That does not include the purchase of fire trucks, which range anywhere between $300,000 and $1 million. Bruce Township annual revenue, Bruce Township Fire Department annual revenue, with the Bruce Township taxes, we collect $2.46 million. The Romeo contract is $551,000 a year. That comes out to $3 million, just a little over $3 million. So there's a shortfall of $300,000, and this has been happening year over year, and it keeps increasing year over year. So an example of the current township millage rate, if we were to apply that to Romeo, just an example of how much of a difference there is. There are, the taxable value of all the parcels in Romeo for 2023 is over $192 million. If we were to take that same millage that we use in Bruce Township of 5.53, you would be collecting just over $1 million. When you divide that by 1,052 parcels, that's how many billable parcels you have in Romeo, that comes out to an average of $662 that the average Romeo resident payment for each parcel. We're already working into our 2024 budget, and our projected 2024 tax revenue collection for Bruce Township will be approximately $2.6 million. Bruce Township Fire has a total of 40% of their runs are in the village of Romeo. And when you take 40% and divide it by, or multiply it by 2.6, you come up with just over $1 million. We've taken these numbers and dissect them 3 or 4 different ways, and every time we have come up with an answer of right around $1 million, just under or just over. So this $551,000 contract that we have with the village, it's not sustainable. We cannot continue to subsidize the fire and ALS for the village of Romeo. Again, if there's any questions you need answered, we are being as transparent as possible. Our doors are always open at the Township Hall. We're open Monday through Thursday. Come on in and see us. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I may ask a question. It's my understanding that when those runs are made, there is a collection of insurance money that goes to Bruce. Can you tell me how much that is annually?
Annually, probably about 260, 80.
220.
Yeah, 220.
Is what we're using, cost average.
So 220,000 a year.
It's about 220,000 a year, but that cost keeps going down.
Residents of Romeo.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
That's not a bill to the residents of Romeo.
Right, that's what you're collecting from the insurance based on the runs in Romeo.
If the residents can't afford it, or they can't pay for it, or they have no insurance, we don't collect, we write that off. We write off about anywhere from $400,000 to $500,000 a year in collections.
So,
We
so I,
bill somewhere in the neighborhood of about $600,000. We collect about 220.
Okay, I don't mean to cut this off, but this is just public comment time. We're not here for discussion. Thank you, Frank.
Again, if you have any questions, come and see us, Shelley.
thank you.
Do we have any more public comment? Okay, Mr. Corey.
Good evening. I'm Richard Corey. I used to be the supervisor of Bruce Township, and I was there when we negotiated that, what was it, $550,000? And the reason it was low is because the past administration, they came to Bruce Township and they said the village just didn't have a lot of money. So I said, well, let's be neighborly. And that's kind of why that lower number came around, because we just wanted to help, because what's the most important thing? The most important thing, somebody on Pleasant Street's got to, if something happens, they want the fire department there in 2 minutes. So that's just a little bit of the history. If you take, you take the numbers out of it, and I've talked to Megan about this, I've talked to Mike about this, the negotiations. You guys can figure it out. There's got to be give and take on both ends, because, we got to have somebody show up and we got to have a heart attack. So that's a little bit of the history.
Well, I'm hoping you don't have a heart attack.
Yeah, thank you.
But yes, we hear you. Any more public comment? No. Okay, we are going to move on from public comment. From now on, it is just council involvement. Okay, officer reports. Clerk Trapp, would you like to start?
Sure. I did an overview of the activity in the Village of Romeo Cemetery last year for 2023. We had 13 full burials, 21 cremain burials, and 16 foundations were completed. And the cemetery board had an evening meeting last week. Items that were discussed were new plots in the cemetery that we are in the process of, and project goals for the next 1 to 5 years that include improved mapping, a columbarium, and a new war memorial marker. And that is what I have.
I'd like to say, in addition to that, I'd like to thank Trustee Parker and Shelley down there to help get that information together for our clerk as far as the additional various sites, so.
Is that your trustee report?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Trustee Care?
At this time.
Trustee Parker?
Touch on planning real quick. We did meet, we did decide as a commission, I think, with Mark's assistance, to redo December's meeting. So look for that to be reposted for February. That's all I got.
Trustee Rousseau?
Nothing, thank you.
Trustee Edwards?
Not at this time.
Trustee Bartholomew?
Nothing at this time.
Okay. Let me find mine. Tried to keep it short, knowing we had a lot on the agenda to discuss here. This one's a fun one. Village Hall repairs. So we had Poe Restoration come out. We will have a report next month. There was not time by the time they came out. There's going to be some more repairs needed. It seems that we have on the front, on the face of our building, where the village sign is, and we have the large, I always call it limestone. Under that is a large beam, of which is failing and rusting, and will need to be pulled out and potentially replaced. We're going to have it written into the RFP that when we pull that stone off, if it seems that it doesn't need to, then that will accommodate the contract. But from what they've seen so far, on top of all of the brickwork repair, it seems we might need to change out our steel I-beam. SEMCOG, that is the Southeastern Michigan Council of Governments. I have been asked and accepted an appointment to what they are calling the Justice 40 Task Force. This is a task force that would allow, by being on it, allows Romeo representation and a voice at the table. This is geared towards communities identified as underserved and underinvested, and that is Romeo. We are on that specific title. So the goal of this Justice 40 Community Task Force is to support the communities in their path to prosperity by, I'm reading from their thing, ensuring all voices and communities are heard in regional planning and initiatives, sharing resources available to communities based on the Justice 40 designation, and providing a space for collaboration and sharing of opportunities, challenges, and successes. The kickoff meeting is next Tuesday in Detroit. We'll be heading down there to start that force. Our Ford Task Force continues to meet. At this point, we're meeting every 2 months. We are doing a really interesting collaboration with the Romeo Community Schools in one of their paths. And this specific path, they're going to envision what this could be. This is going to be like a project for them, and it's really it's going to be fun, creative. They're going to do an on-site tour, little field trip. They don't get to go in. It's going to be windshield in the bus because there's still a lot of things going on at Ford. Going into the classroom presenting, I'm trying to go. There are people from Macomb County, trying to get them the whole feel here so that then they can draw, what is a CAD? I'm sorry, that is not my area of expertise. But anyways, they're envisioning what this could be. So that's a fun thing to do with the school. Our video contract. Last month I mentioned that we had a few contracts that we had looked at. Our video one has yet to be paid. Currently, it was asked for lawyers to get involved, so that is where we are at the moment. It has not been paid yet. We are hopeful, though, that we will recoup the overpayment. Fire negotiations, I think you all just heard that, so I don't really need to go into there. Water rates. I did meet with Mr. Kasor on Friday, just the initial, hey, where are we at? How is this going with this past year? We've had 2 bills at the new rate. The different things, residential seems to be happy, pretty quiet. It's the industrial where things need a little adjusting. So you have them in our packet here, some other approvals going forward. The Henry Ford Urgent Care in Bruce Township will be closing down within the year. They've reached out to me letting me know, however, they are moving to Romeo. So yay for us. We're going to be getting an urgent care. They could not tell me where, but I think if we all think about available properties and where it could go, there's really only one spot. So we are excited and welcome to them. Winterfest. It is Winterfest time. It's been Winterfesting for the last 2 weekends. I think we have, 3 more? 5K is still open. Sign up. I'm running in the 5K. It's very chilly. I kind of walk that. Don't really run that. But there is a 1 mile. You are able to walk, and there's a little snowman dash for the little kids, 100-yard dash. And then there's a chili cook-off, and we have, if you look around town, of all of the ice sculptures. With that, though, we need to pay attention to keeping our sidewalks cleared. I know we have a storm coming tonight. We do have an ordinance on the books. We do kind of need to look at that. The ordinance here isn't because we don't want to burden the residents. An ordinance is for those who just kind of don't care that there's an ordinance. For people who push their parking lot onto the sidewalk. For people who might not be in a home, and so because they're not residing there, they don't even touch the sidewalk at all. Those are the types. When we see you out there, we can tell if there's been snow removed, you're actively trying. You guys aren't the ones we're trying to encourage with a violation. But we do need to look at that because the way that we have it on the books, by the time we give them notice, X, Y, and Z, it's over, and what's the point? And then essentially they just continued to get to do that. I have talked with our treasurer. I recently had some text messages over a weekend with a resident who's been here for a couple years and was asking tax questions. How does this work? Why do we do this? And it got me to thinking, you know what, maybe we need to do some sort of a seminar, some sort of a training per se, because the village is unique. You do pay a village tax and a township tax. Completely separate, you never double up. However, it can be confusing, especially if you're new. For some of us that have been here a while, it's still confusing to us. So I've talked to the treasurer, she's on board. So we're thinking sometime in the spring towards tax season, we'll get a seminar together. We'll do it here, just a very informal training, walking through what the taxes mean, who gets what, why does the township do the assessing, why do they capture that, why do we capture ours, kind of just getting that going so there's not that ambiguity to it that you feel like the village is raising our taxes. Your home value went up, and you bonded for roads, so your taxes went up. But we are using your money wisely. Okay. Are we good there? The treasurer's not here, right? Okay, she does have her report in your, can someone tell me really quick how much money we made this month? Almost $30,000 in investment money. So there's that report. Okay, committee reports. Fire ALS. Justin, Matt, would anybody like to speak?
Real quick, the snow removal ordinance.
Yes.
Send it to planning.
We could.
We can discuss it and bring it back next month to the council.
Okay, that
And
would.
then on that also, I forgot, did Chair Stegner reach out to you about the capital improvement?
I have not.
Okay, I'll follow up on that. Supposed to reach out to set something up.
Okay. I only know that he's.
Yeah.
Okay. Fire ALS contract.
I wasn't at the last meeting, so.
No, we were both there.
So yeah, we just got a lot of information from Bruce Township. Initially, the offer back was somewhere around 1.2 million from the 500 we were currently paying. Offered back 992, and then I think maybe something else currently in the last email. The village is currently paying 551, which has been increasing every year of that contract. It's not, had been stagnant the whole time. We have currently offered them some increase back with percentages over every year, and we haven't come to an agreement at this point.
Yeah. We've made it known to them that we understand being in the red. We won't want to be in the red either. So we're willing to meet in the middle, try and come up with a solution where they aren't continuing to lose out on their general fund. And that's where we're at.
I guess the one problem I see is they do it by millage, and we take the funds out of our general fund. And we don't have the room in there to raise the millage because of the Headley amendments. So we can't just go out there and raise the money. It just doesn't happen. So they could raise their, because they have a separate millage for fire and a separate millage for ALS. They have the ability to do that to their citizens. We do not. And going from $370 something to $800 is, that's a big increase to our residents. It's more than, just over double.
Right,
the
especially
cost.
when our median income is at 50 and 60 grand. The median income out in Bruce is in the 100,
Yeah.
starting at 100. So there's a big disparity between what our people can afford versus theirs. Just trying to get somewhere where our budget can,
Can withstand it.
yep. Yeah.
And
We have a meeting
the-
tomorrow.
The other thing we discussed is Bruce wants to put us on the same playing field or the same taxable rate as them, but we're technically still just a customer. And to put us on the same playing field and we have no interest, we have no ownership, we have no value.
No saying who the
say
chief is.
in anything that happens with the department, if they decide they want to sell a truck and make some money off that truck, the village sees none of that, even though they want us to be equal per se, we have no say.
So the next meeting's tomorrow?
Yes,
Where's that at?
at Bruce.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, our pilot committee,
We have not met yet for January, hoping to meet in the next 2 weeks.
okay. Our GSAPS committee, do you want to wait? Are we good till
Yeah,
the
we
item?
met, but I won't waste any time. We can talk about it at the agenda.
Okay. Okay. Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you.
We'll see you tomorrow. Okay, our GLEWA contract. Finally able to settle here. And I shouldn't even say settle. It's all in our favor. We will be getting a credit onto our bill that will help offset future. Basically, with Ford leaving, we've had a lot of volume decrease. If you look on our page 4. Yeah, Exhibit B, page 4. Over the years, our projected annual volume, the middle one, in 12 it was 11,000, 18 you're at 6. Coming down here into, we're finishing out 24 at the 6,000, that was what was contracted, but coming into 25 we're down at 31. It's essentially in half, and then even if you go over to the annual volume, similar in half. And when we talk about Great Lakes Water, we're talking about the industrial district. We are not talking about residential, which is on our well. So these are specifically for industrial users over towards Powell, gymnastics, all of those places. So this is an adjustment of the volume, the flows, and we basically need a motion, a resolution or a motion.
That's huge, that'll help a lot with that minimum going down,
It's a yes and a no, because as we have a lot of volume, you imagine when you have 50 users, the price per gallon is a little less because you have more users. And as we've had the users go down, that price per gallon also increases. So it does definitely kind of teeter-totter, but it is still going down. So we will be able to adjust accordingly. And this contract should not see opening again until, hopefully soon, we find Ford actually puts the site up for sale and we can get somebody in there, single or a developer, whatever, and at that time, they acknowledge that we will need more volume, that's a contract opener, we go back to the books, we will work on that. So if we could get
I'll make
motion?
a motion to accept the contract for the amendment number 5 to the water service contract between Great Lakes Water Authority and the Village of Romeo.
Support?
Who wants to fight it out?
What? Oh, okay, you can have it if you want.
Okay, we have a motion by Parker, support by Rousseau, accepting the Great Lakes contract.
Make question. Any of the businesses in the industrial area anticipating increasing their water usage that might impact anything?
Not currently. I've been informed of a user potentially, but they aren't currently in our district yet. Great Lakes is aware of them, and I have addressed it. At this point, though, they're not technically in our district.
Okay.
So they did feel comfortable with these values, even knowing that information is potential.
To clarify, that's in our water district, not
What did I say?
no, you said not in our district, right, the water district?
Correct. They're not in Romeo. They're currently in Bruce. They're not even they're not even currently a user, but they are potentially becoming a user.
Gotcha.
Okay.
All in favor of accepting the contract as presented? Aye.
Aye.
Do we have any opposed? We have none opposed. Okay, moving into our Prospect Street discussion.
So I'm gonna pass down some papers of a proposed resolution. Doesn't have to be verbatim if we make any modifications tonight. I'm hoping that this is something that we can work through. It was something that was touched on in the presentation by Donna, which was great, by the way. Basically, to say it in layman, in Nolan's terms, a little simpler, they just need our support so they can further their efforts to fundraise and reach out to maybe grant organizations or other governmental agencies. They need a verbal support, or I'm sorry, a written support from us that basically says we support their efforts. I'm hoping it's not very binding. Just basically, if they're able to put the meat on the table, to get the resources, to get the funding, that this is something that we're interested in pursuing. I guess I can read it for everyone since I didn't put it in our packet. The proposed resolution is, whereas parks and green space are essential components of the quality of life for Romeo residents, the Village Board of Trustees supports and collaborates with the efforts of the Green Space on Prospect Street Citizen Group to raise funds for the acquisition and preservation as green space of the property at 297 Prospect Street. If the needed resources are in place, it is the intent of this board to acquire and preserve as green space the property at 297 Prospect Street. So I think that wording it's not too binding for us. There's a lot of financial concerns that we have and other issues that we want to deal with, but this is also something at our table. I feel that if this is something we can push through tonight, maybe we're able to start talking with the Board of Education a little bit sooner. Maybe we need to make this step so that we can take the next step and looking better at the viability and really just getting to that next level. We had a really good meeting last week on Tuesday, so I don't know if Justin and Shelley wanted to touch on it at all, or if there's any questions.
Well, I'd like to just see in this one spot, the intent of this board to acquire in collaboration with the green space people. I mean, like I said before, I don't want us out there by ourselves, and this is
Right.
strictly putting us there at that spot.
What's the second line there? Says Village Board of Trustees supports and collaborates with the efforts of the green
Up
space.
there.
Yeah,
But down
just say it
here,
again at the
just
bottom.
says the intent of this board
Okay.
is to acquire.
Yeah, and that is the intent. We want to be able to work with them. Obviously, they have the resources and they have a lot of
But I'd like to
knowledge.
say that.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
That's all. Other than that, I'm not against it.
I'll make the motion we adopt this resolution as a board.
Is there a spot where you want to put Trustee Fowler's addition?
Oh, I'm sorry, did he just make a motion?
He
No,
he mentioned adding, I guess I'll let you say
I
it.
just wanted to put, just not to leave this board out there by ourselves in this venture, but having it in collaboration with the green space people.
So let's do, it is the intent of this board and, it is the intent of this board to acquire and preserve the green space, the property at 297 Prospect Street with the collaboration of
Or
GSOPs.
the intent of this board in collaboration?
With GSOPs.
Yes. Then that's.
Mark, is it smart to make a motion to include or collaborate another group?
Well, I don't like answering smart or not smart questions.
What would you do, Mark?
Well, and that's not fair either. You can be unfair to me. I mean, it's unfair to the community because I'm not elected.
Yeah.
Would you turn your microphone on, please?
Oh, darn.
I know, I'm sorry. It's just
I
so
shouldn't
people at
have
home
to
can
turn,
hear.
I should be allowed to speak, but no. Is it smart? You have to decide as a board where you're going with this. And if the intent is at some point that the village is gonna buy the property, then you can express that. If that's not your intent, then you need to hedge. Or you say, no, we don't wanna buy the property. We're glad for the effort to make it green space, but as you, the stewards of the public fisc, are we gonna spend money on green space? If you are, then you express intent. If you're not going to, then you can say, gee, we're glad that this group is undertaking these efforts and the hard work they're putting in, and we're cheerleaders, but we're not investors. I mean, that's for you to decide. So it's not really a question where I can say, this is a smart idea or this is a dumb idea. That's a value judgment. And the value is in the space itself. And then you have to decide, well, how's it gonna be acquired? Is the school gonna hold on to it and the village mows it? Well, what's gonna happen? And that's for you to decide. Those are policy questions that you should decide. One thing that I do have a mild concern about in the fundraising part of it, to collaborate with the efforts of the Green Space on Prospect Street Citizens Group to raise funds for the acquisition, to me, that means that as a village, you're going to, as the village government, you're gonna solicit money along with the green space people to get donations. I have some concern about that. I think you could probably do it, but my concern more is what's the record keeping? Where does the money go? And if somebody donates and they feel that the donation was used improperly or wasn't properly credited, you may every once in a while read in the newspaper about donors and beneficiaries getting in fights over pledges and, I'm gonna donate X number of dollars to Michigan State University and you're gonna name a building after me, and then, oh, you don't name the building after me, and so it turns into a fist fight. So if somebody's disgruntled and you're helping raise the money, you probably have the deeper pockets than the GSOP group. I don't know that, but I'm thinking that may be the case. So you may want to be careful about your intertwining with the fundraising efforts.
Right, and I do want to add to that. I mean, maybe it could be worded a little better. That it's the village board of trustees supports and collaborates with the efforts of green space. So not necessarily saying that we are the ones that are going out to do the planning and the raising of the funds, but that we're supporting their efforts. So it could be worded a little better.
Collaborate in the wording though, and that
Collaborates
means
with
working
their efforts.
together
So yeah.
for fundraising.
So
I think if we just need to give them a statement, if we could simplify it, basically almost as the last two sentences. If the needed resources are in place from the Green Space Romeo Citizens Group, it is the intent of this board to acquire and preserve the green space, and so on.
Yeah.
And
Well,
to
and I would
simplify it,
even-
leave the top part out of it and simplify.
I would even move into fleshing it out a little further. It is our intent. And then what is a stipulation? Because once we just say it's our intent, then we walk all the way there and they come back and say, well, you said it was an intent. I would put, they have a goal of 500. We've heard 700, 800. So that leaves the elephant in the room of either you hope the school's gonna take less money, which it doesn't sound like they are from when they came here. So essentially that's an unasked ask of 200 to 300 grand from this council. If this council's on board with finding that money somewhere in our budget, then I say you step forward. If you're not on board with that, end it now and don't continue to lead these people on.
So that goes beyond what my goal is, and maybe I speak for the group of what their goal is for this resolution. I'm not trying to make that sacrificial, we're signing right now that we're gonna get this done, we're gonna do it. It could have been worded better. All we're trying to do is give them we're trying to give them our support that if they're able to organize the funding in its entirety, whether that be what they showed in their presentation or not, that we have their support. It's my idea of the most unbinding, if they can figure it out, this is something that.
Yeah, we're willing to walk, we're willing to
walk.
walk this far to a certain point. It does bother me a bit that this wasn't in our packet, that you're asking right now, that you literally have said to push through. I get that it's time sensitive.
Right.
And now you're asking us to make this decision right now. Now we're all flailing about trying to find proper wordage. That is a little bothersome. Put that aside. What do we want to say?
Well, I was gonna say, I have some proposed verbiage, so if we can table this to the next meeting, then I think the three of us can get together and, because some of this verbiage I'm thinking about was some of what we talked about at our last meeting.
Yeah.
And I think that'll address Megan's concern.
Okay.
So do we wanna take it back and work on it as a subcommittee and bring it back next month?
Is this going to stop any further movement, though, to not have something tonight?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah,
I
and
did
there's
like
only
to-
so much time.
I did like to change this in.
We got till June though, right?
To know in May.
If the needed resources are in place from the Green Space Romeo Citizens Group to acquire the whole or
All
part
or
of
some.
All or some.
297 prospects, the village, the intent of this board, I don't know.
Yeah, and the village is not
Something just
committing
basically saying if they have the
funds.
resources to acquire all or part.
Yeah, and I do apologize that it was kind of a last minute thing. The meeting was just last week and I didn't have time to get this in the packet anyway, so that is my fault. I know it feels hasty and that's why my goal is to have this not be too binding on us.
Right.
So I do apologize if it wasn't well revised.
But this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity. And I think it's something that the village should be together with the green space.
Well, so then I would say, I would like to make a motion that the,
There was a motion on the floor with no second. Does that motion being withdrawn or failed for
No,
support?
my motion was to support this and the changes Nolan just made, just to show the residents that we are on board to support them as a board.
but I want to
Not-
hear what that says. Say what the motion
So
will be.
I would like to withdraw my motion this time, and maybe we
Okay.
could table it
Okay,
till
that's
next
fine.
month.
You mentioned just keep the first paragraph.
I think it,
Or eliminate the first part. just use
make a
the-
motion, I will make a motion. I'll go slow. That the Village of Romeo supports the efforts of acquiring the property of 297 Prospect Street. I want to say this motion in no way binds us to following through should funds not be raised to the level that the GSAPS group has set as their goal.
Sure, thank you.
Or, I think your.
I'll listen
I
to
think
it
the
again.
question,
I
if the
timestamped
property
it.
goes for more than they raise or their goal,
That's it.
then we're binded to that. They raise 500, they ask.
The intent is the pursuit of the acquisition. We could raise 100% of what we think is the selling price, and that still might not be enough. We're still just one buyer at the table. So the intent is to pursue acquisition.
Okay, then can I go back, just sticking with, so what I wanted to say was the Village Board of Trustees supports the efforts of the GSAP Citizens Group to raise the funds for acquisition, either partially or in full, of the space and property at 297 Prospect Street. If the group raises those funds, then the Village of Romeo will consider all or partial offer of purchase.
I like that.
But that leaves us with that amount still too, doesn't it?
I think we're
Consider.
willing to pay that amount, though, or make up that amount.
200,000 to 300,000?
That's,
Yeah,
yeah, I
that's
don't
a
wanna get,
generation
It is.
opportunity.
It is.
This'll never come back.
I'm still thinking fire ALS right
I
now.
don't wanna get to that conversation
Seriously.
tonight. This,
And they're raising a big chunk, they'd be raising over 50%.
I like what Shelley said verbatim. I think I would make a motion or
I can
second.
pull mine.
Okay.
Do we have to repeat what she just said, or can I second that?
Can't
Was that a
you just
motion?
pass that
Well,
on
I need
down?
first I need a motion, then a support.
Shelley, do you
You
wanna
have to
offer
make
that?
motion, as you read. You have to
Want me to
reread.
reread it, rewrite it?
Make a motion.
Okay, I make a motion that the Village Board of Trustees supports the efforts of the GSOP Citizens Group to raise the funds for the acquisition of partial or all of 297 Prospect Street. If the GSOP Group raises the needed funds for all or partial, the Village of Romeo will consider acquisition.
I'll support.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor of supporting the motion?
Aye.
Do we have any opposed? We have none opposed.
Trustee Russell, can you email that to me? Thank you.
Sure.
Just replay it
Yeah,
50
I
times.
timestamped it. Exactly.
Did you? Okay.
Pause.
Yeah, and part of that being, if they raise 500,000, but we can only get 3/4 of the property, then,
And it leaves it open to acquiring something.
yeah, somehow.
Yeah, let's get a
we
chunk.
Lose it, you know what I mean? That's a thought, okay.
If the
Yeah,
school entertain that.
right.
Yeah, because there's technically 3 parcels.
I don't know, Thor, listen, are we streaming right now? No? Okay. Not that I'm shy, just give me, no stream, no stream.
Into our new business, the CDBG funding.
Sorry.
These are our allocations. This is just percentages of how we've done it in the past. We don't get a lot of money, $2,500. If this is acceptable, make a motion as presented. If not, then we move the money around.
I personally appreciate the two groups that took the time to come today, and I respect them and their efforts. So I make the motion that $1,250 be granted to Samaritan House and $1,250 be granted to Interfaith Volunteer Caregivers, the two groups that came to present today.
I second that.
So we'll take off,
And the rest, you're just gonna go to zero?
I appreciate the two groups that came today to spend their time, or even send a letter. Not that I don't appreciate all of them, but
The rest of the groups, Megan clarified, did not reach out at all.
I didn't receive communication. Did you, clerk?
No, just from Stacy, I
No.
believe was the only one I received communication from.
I know Turning Point often comes, they have come, seriously, I've been here 8 years. I think this is the first year they haven't come to speak.
Right.
Turning
Yes,
Point
That's true.
is a organization that helps women needing to get out of dangerous situations.
And
I
children.
would still like something there. They do, and in the past have shown funds literally going to women and families in need here in the village. So if we could still put something there, I would like Turning Point to get something.
Well, Safe at Home isn't on your list here at all. And,
That's interfaith.
That's part of interfaith.
oh,
mhm.
gotcha.
Well, we had a motion and a support.
$100,
Okay. I can amend my motion.
Okay.
I like it a little more than 100.
I will amend my motion that Turning Point receive $200 of the funds as requested, and the remaining $2,300 be divided evenly among Samaritan House and Interfaith Volunteer Caregivers.
Just to interject, though, CHORE, C-H-O-R-E, we have absolutely no choice
Oh, yeah,
in
that's set
that
down by the
allocation.
county
That's-
or the
That's
state.
set by the county.
Oh, so we gotta give them five.
Oh,
So that really
You're right.
brings our allocation total
So
down to
minus-
2,000 total for the remaining requesters.
Well,
Okay.
until she just changed it.
So we're gonna
so
revise.
Tor will get 500. Yep.
We have no choice in that.
So that leaves you 9 and 9.
Yep, and carry
for Samaritan and Interfaith, 200 for Turning Point, 500 Shore. Is that acceptable?
Say that again?
Say that again.
If you have 500 in Shore,
Yeah.
200 Turning Point, the other two each get 900.
Or could we do the 5, 2 for McRest, 7 for Samaritan House, 2 for Care House, 7 for Interfaith, and then 2 for Turning Point? Still honoring that they came and submitted and spoke to us with $700 each. 500's gotta go to Shore, and then 200 for the remaining.
I would support that.
Well, we're still in the original motion.
I can rescind it.
Okay.
I'll withdraw my support on that.
Oh, okay.
I'll second Justin's.
So I'll make a motion.
Wait, did the original person who made the motion, is she withdrawing her motion?
I
Or
will.
just amending it? Okay,
I withdrew my support.
gotcha. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I'll make a motion to distribute the CDB grant funding as following. Shore, 500, McRest, 200, Samaritan House, 7, Care House, 200, Interfaith, 700, Turning Point, 200.
Support.
And if
Who
anyone
said
needs to
that?
check my
No one?
math, please.
Did you say that?
We have a motion by Parker, support by Care. All in favor of distributing funds as presented or as motioned? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay. One
Pardon me?
nay.
Who was that?
1 nay by Bartholomew.
Bartholomew, gotcha.
Oh, we've always, historically, we went with what was on here, so that's fine.
Okay, moving into amendments, of which we mean budget amendments. And this is why Danielle is here. Danielle is one of our accountants from Plant Moran. I'm so glad you're here because we have this is our first time, usually this would be our second amendment, that's why they seem lengthier. This is what would have been 2 amendments into 1. So, do you want to speak, or do you just want, how would you like to do it? Does anybody have questions about the amendments? How about that?
I think everything's, the
I would-
breakout stuff was nice.
I will point out with our road, which page is that? The last one of the whole list, note number 3. When we set out with that contract, we'd only budgeted for 1.8, but we awarded the contract for 1.9, so we need to not only amend it to lift it higher to that amount, we also ended up over budget by 168,217. So together, that is an amendment of 291,211. So just so that everyone sees, that is specifically for the street bond, the roads. Yeah, go.
So, hello, Honorable Board. My name is Danielle Kelly. I'm the manager of the Plant Moran Group that does the accounting for the village. Other than the road amendment that President Poznanski brought up, I also wanted to bring up the Michigan pension grant that the village received. The village received about 109, I believe. I'm trying to get to the note.
Like 130.
Yeah, $130,000 grant from the state of Michigan. That went directly into the MERS account, so it did not pass through the village's bank account. That was intended by the state to make sure that it goes to the correct pension systems when the grants went out. The accounting for that requires us to recognize it, even though it didn't pass through our books. So there is a note describing that, and the amendment, you'll see, goes to multiple funds because multiple funds support the pension. Multiple employees work in multiple funds, and therefore it has to be allocated on an employee basis. So that's why you see those amendments all throughout the funds and why it looks so lengthy. We can't just put it in the general fund. So I just wanted to bring that up. That is a net zero budget amendment. There's a revenue and an expense, and it nets to zero.
All in our favor. If there aren't any more questions, can we get a motion to approve the budget amendments as presented?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Parker, support by Rousseau. approving budget amendments as presented. Could you call the roll on it?
Yes. Parker,
Yes.
Rousseau,
Yes.
Bartholomew,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
Care,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
President Poznanski.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, moving into the approval of our audit. You were given your booklet last month, the presentation was this month. This is just us confirming and accepting our audit. If we can have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2023 audit.
Support.
We have a motion by Edwards, support by Parker, approving the audit. All in favor? Aye. Do we have any opposed? None opposed. Our DDA Winterfest event permit. Do we have any questions or comments or a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the Romeo DDA event permit for Winterfest as presented.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Care, support by Bartholomew, approving the permit. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Do we have any opposed? There are none opposed. Thank you for the work that you do.
Thanks for going through the process.
Our marijuana license issuance. This is at the table. This is, I guess you would call, finishing out the process. The processing application for 100 Schaefer Processing LLC has been reviewed and was approved by the following departments of the clerk's office, treasurer's office, building official, and fire chief. Therefore, we included the language here for you guys from the ordinance. Therefore, we are here at the next Village Romeo Council meeting, and we shall approve the license in order of the date and time receipt.
This needs no movement, right?
Nope, this is, it's,
Just
I
for
call it pomp and
clarification,
circumstance
This is
of here,
an
you are awarded.
additional license,
This is a processing.
additional to what they currently have?
That is correct, yes.
I'll make a motion to,
We don't need motions.
We don't need one.
It's basically just letting it be known. Sign permit fee update. What I have for you here, the village currently charges $50 for a sign permit, of which is mostly captured by our building inspector. As this permit, he goes on site, looks visually, sees where it's going, that sort of thing. However, we also have a sign review, generally done whenever a sign permit is filled out, and that is a $100 review by our village planner, of which we don't have anything in place to recoup that $100. So we're asking that the board add sign review at $100, so it's just a pass-through. We're not making money off of these sign reviews, but we are at least covering our costs.
Can I ask why we're paying planner to review sign? It's pretty well spelled out in our ordinance. Can't that be reviewed at the building department when it comes in?
Well, the building department doesn't review ordinance in this area. This is why we have the planner.
And the inspection by the inspector
Yeah, building
would
inspector.
clarify if it's within our ordinance or code, right?
He
So
looks
I-
at
I'm
building
just
code and he
confused
goes,
why we're spending $100.
yes, that can be hooked to that and that weight and X, Y, and Z. Whereas the planner says, no, you cannot have two, you can only have one. There's a difference between our building inspector saying that and the village planner.
But when that gets submitted to the office in an application for a permit, could be like, oh, you can't have two. Can't we do that? Why are we paying $100 every time for a sign ordinance?
Because they go, well, why, prove it, and then we have our professional prove it to them with the review.
I'm not, I don't.
It's liability.
And that's not included in the fee we already pay?
No, we only capture $50 and it essentially costs us $150.
No, I mean that we pay the planner.
Okay, what's your question? Say it again?
The person that does the reviewing, that we're, for the final, that
Karen.
we're losing the $100 on, don't we pay that person a fee already?
Yes, that's included in here also, in the page that says Exhibit B.
I think
She does have,
referred to a monthly
yeah, she has a,
retainer.
it's listed here. There's a monthly of retainer of $550, and these are à la carte items. That's where I circled sign review is an additional 100. It's not included in the retainer.
Oh. So do we really need 150 to cover her bases, to cover the inspector and the planner?
That's what it costs us. That's what it costs
Right.
the village.
So is that something you'd be interested in charging for the
Yeah,
permit?
we're not, it's not here, our permits are not here to make money off our
Right.
people that want to come in. We want to make it as affordable for them to come into the village, but also not have the taxpayers have to offset that $100 now every time.
I'll make a motion to approve the sign permit in the amount of $100 per permit.
Second. It should be sign review, right?
Or,
For an
would it be
additional?
sign review? Yes.
Okay, we have a motion by Care,
Second.
support by Fowler, for the addition of $100. Can you call the roll, please, Clerk Trapp?
Yes.
Fowler?
Yes.
President Poznanski?
Yes.
Rousseau?
Yes.
Parker?
No.
Where am I? Edwards?
Yes.
Bartholomew?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-1.
Okay, moving into municipal analytics and the software. This is for the Waterworth software, of which, when we say we're reviewing our water rates, this is the software that holds all of that information that Mr. Kasor then is able to put in the different values and figure out where we need to be in our budget, covering not only our expenses, but also care of and maintenance. The invoice is for $5,250. That is just the renewal of the software. And then Mr. Kasor is at a rate of $158 an hour.
Did he have an estimated?
Well, I went back and looked at last year's. Last year, we did a not to exceed 10,000. We came in, the software was just a titch cheaper last year, so it was like at 49. And I think he came in at like 4,000. And I want to say that had to do, we had a lot of the crossover in the software. So there was extra hours used. I don't think we need as much this year. I'd be safe with 8, not to exceed 8. Between covering the software and then his hours.
So you want to make the motion to not exceed 8?
8,000. I think that's safe.
Do you make it? I'll support it.
There. I make a motion not to exceed $8,000 for the municipal analytics and the Waterworth software. Support by Parker. All in favor? Aye. Do we have any opposed? We have none opposed there. Moving into our executive search. As we know at last meeting, our police chief will be retiring this year in the spring. In looking into everything and figuring out, okay, how do we hire a police chief? There's companies that do it for you. I'd like to take I take a lot of classes and I get a lot of information in order to be the president. Running a police department, knowing what a chief should and shouldn't have, that's not one of the classes I've ever taken. So I'd like to take it and put it in the professionals' hands. They're able to do the background checks, the reviews. It also takes any sort of, I've already received one resume. I hear chatter of other local people wanting to apply. I feel like by them hiring someone to do the initial look at everything in the background checks and the initial reviews before they present us with options takes any sort of favoritism, whether intentional or unintentional, out of that. This is a big decision. The village has not gone out of the department to hire for a police chief in at least 4 chiefs, the best that I could find. And I would like us to make the right decision and not end up down the road in 6 months back at the same spot. So I have for you 3 quotes One is on the lower side of, that is from Walsh, Walsh Municipal Services. That one, I believe, was at around 10 grand. $10,900. The MML, of which I know we've used, at least I've been told, I haven't yet to find the actual documents. We've used the MML in the past for this sort of thing. I would think we could, they offer 3 tiers. I would think we would be okay with the first or the second option. First option being $15,500 and the second option being $18,500. And then the third proposal, the one that came in later, was $25,000. That one, if you read them and compare them, literally that's all they do is hire police chiefs. That one was very detailed. I think the latest one that they did in Michigan, or an example, was Lansing, Grand Rapids. Larger departments, I don't know if it's necessary for that one, but I wanted to get us 3 quotes, so there's that one.
Were any of the people who were interested within our department?
We currently don't have any leadership other than the police chief in our department.
Okay.
Has anybody ever talked to any department as far as filling vacancy, which Mr. Bartholomew is hinting around? Nothing? No?
Wasn't there like a chief junior appoint?
No, that was never done.
It was never done?
No.
Because I know we,
So if someone within the department is interested, they would need to go through this?
Yeah, they could apply. Anyone, I mean, they could apply. You would, from the little bit of research I have done, you want someone with leadership experience. And at the moment, none of our officers have that.
but we want somebody also with, familiar with the community.
Do we?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Do these services go beyond just searching through the applicants we would get otherwise? Do they help you get more applicants or more qualified applicants?
So that's the difference between your price points here.
Right.
The specific police chief one at 25, they have a database. They just, this is what they do. They have a database to pull from. They will post, but they have more than that.
Yeah.
They have resources. The other 2 will do more posting. MML does have a job posting. That's where I found it. I saw them posting about other police chiefs. We have the Michigan Association of Police Chiefs site. They also have a job posting. So each one also shows brochures, that sort of thing, putting it in a paper, posting it. So there's a difference in the applicants that you'll get, or the pool that you're throwing out to. Do I think posting versus having your database, your big resource?
Yeah.
I think whoever's going to apply is going to apply no matter what.
Yeah.
Seems like a lot of money.
It definitely is a big decision. I think it would be worth at least taking an initial look at the applicants that we're getting. I mean, it would be, if we're not getting good quality applicants, then maybe we have to take it a little more seriously and then go to someone who's gonna go out and seek candidates. But I mean, if it sounds like for the first 2 groups to pay all that money and we're probably gonna get the same applicants either way, it's hard to justify that price to me. Unless time becomes a more pressing matter, I don't see an issue with us taking an initial look at our level, at the initial grouping of candidates. So
Which is an
I would
option. It
table
just makes nervous that we only have so much time.
Right.
So in order to do that, we need to then post it. We wait however long we wait. We look at it. At that point, we could already be at April when chief wants to retire, and then we haven't even really started.
Yeah.
Okay.
So is it realistic to just take part of what Nolan said and post it, see what we get, and discuss it in February? And if we stuck our toes in the water and it didn't seem like it was gonna be successful, then come back and hire? Would you rather do that?
Yes and no, because there's background checks that need to be done. Just looking at an application and saying, this one sounds great, and even then, how do we do I don't have authority to do those sorts of background checks. So we still would need to find, so the MML offers certain à la carte services. That could be something that we would still need to pay out for.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess if this is nothing that we're interested in, I will move forward with continuing to find us a police chief.
Yeah, I mean, I would still maybe consider it, as we get closer, if we're in a panic and we're really kind of,
Well, I guess this was my
I would say
way of trying to.
By next month, we should make a decision if we're gonna do this or not.
Yeah.
I don't wanna wait till we're in a panic.
Right.
yeah.
You know,
Do you wanna
This
put
is
this on
just the
agenda
way
next month?
to,
we
this is the way
decide.
to involve you guys in the
Yeah.
process a little bit more, as it is,
Background checks on our past.
just like the other appointments.
I'm pretty sure if they came internal for the police, they at some point had a background check coming into the department. I think that's pretty standard. And pretty, yeah.
What extent are you talking, like the fingerprint check that you can go to Lake Orion to get done, or? No, and again, that's where I know as much as you know in that area. There's extensive background. Coles does certain things. I'm learning it along as we go through it. So we don't know what's included in those background checks. Because it could just be the eye tap, $10 on the internet. No, it's a little more than that.
That's what I'm wondering, what more is it? Is it nationwide? Are they checking all states? Because.
You're polling their history, of which I have no authority or way to do. We would have to have it done.
So MML doesn't offer those optional services like just background checks unless you buy a base package first,
Well, there's certain à la carte things. That's something that I can.
without buying a package?
I
Oh,
didn't,
okay.
I didn't ask specifically what is the whole à la carte, but there are things that they do offer, and certain ones. See, optional services, background checks at point of interview. But there's no price next to that.
Okay.
Do you see that, the optional services? So,
I mean, if you were able to, if we could put this on the agenda for next month, and maybe we could get some pricing on some of those optional services, I mean, something like background checks for our police chief sounds pretty necessary, I would say.
yeah, it's pretty important. I
It's
mean,
pretty
we
basic.
do it for our officers. This is going to be the officer in charge of the whole department.
Right.
Kind of need to have somebody that passes background checks.
Right.
Do you put an ad in MML?
For the hiring?
Yeah.
I haven't yet. But yes, MML would be one, Michigan's Police Chiefs Association would be the other.
Okay.
The Mitten,
And those are free or?
yes and no.
Yes.
I'm not sure which ones.
I think there's a fee for MML. Mitten, there's no fee.
It's a good place to start.
It's a good place to
Yeah.
start.
Good place to start.
And that way, if we had something, maybe some response to that for the February meeting.
Yeah,
Right.
from that point.
Well, we need a committee to review if this doesn't happen, then.
No, it's still an appointment, just like any other appointment where it's a presidential appointment, council support.
Yep.
Okay, I will walk forward with that.
You need a motion to put it in the paper or put it in the MML or?
No, those are under threshold of spending. So we can continue to walk forward with that. Okay, I will get that together and get it out and posted.
Thank you.
Okay, moving into our appointments. We have 2 board appointments, and then also I realized we did not redo our president pro tem appointment. So with our DDA, we have Mr. Paul Bowers, and then our HDC, we have Mr. Randy Ingersoll for the board appointments.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint those two, Paul Bowers to the vacant seat, the DDA, and Randy Ingersoll to, which was it?
HDC, yes.
HDC.
I'd support that.
Okay, we have a motion by Care, support by Edwards for the appointments presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have any opposed? Okay. And then our President Pro Tem appointment. Currently,
We didn't do
Is-
that with the
No.
beginning of the year?
no, should have been done in November according to the ordinance or
Yeah, November
general law.
20th or closes to.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then it,
At the end
Yep.
of the year, I should have said that.
that's what I'm saying. I realized we left it off, so here we are.
It's your appointment, right? Or is it, that's council appointment? Yeah.
Mhm.
I'll make a motion to appoint Zach Fowler again to President Pro Tem, if you'll accept.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Parker, second by Rousseau, appointing trustee Fowler as pro tem. All in favor? Aye. Do we have any opposed? We have none opposed. You serve another year, sir. Okay. We switched these around, so go to the back of your packet for the review and discussion of the Village of Romeo zoning ordinance number 482, Article 17, nonconforming uses in nonconforming buildings, and Article 19, administration enforcement.
Yeah, the reason why I want to review this here is because, not against the agreement, this consent and judgment. It's just making it in compliance of what the court actually put the judgment out there for. The Village of Romeo has done everything as far as what it was supposed to do on the consent and judgment. Like I said, number 2 on the consent and judgment basically says, I think that, Mr. Clark, we complied with that one. I think no parking signs between the driveway.
I assume that there's been compliance on the
Yes.
village's part. I have no
So we-
reason to believe otherwise, but I have no, I've not gone out and looked.
Well, they're there, okay. And we've also done in compliance with the, sorry, excuse me, as far as the taking down of the weight limit signs along Clinton Street to 32. We're in compliance there, and we're also in compliance with number 7 on the court consent judgment of paying $25,000, village taxpayer dollars to the plaintiff. So we have complied with all of our wishes. Now, on number 3 on this this consent judgment, it basically tells the plaintiff of exactly what to do. To pull a permit, plumbing permit, to tap into the village's water and sewer lines, and pay the fees. Well, at this point, that process has been circumvented. The owner, and not sure what the process or how it happened. Did it come through the village clerk's office at all, as far as?
It would come through the building department and DPW.
Okay, but you're that boss. So, I mean, any alteration from what this court document is saying, it's actually telling to obtain the necessary permits, and or permits pay the applicable fees.
Well, there has been no FOIA request to see all the permits that were pulled, so.
There's no permits, Zach, I told you this, to do a sewer tap or do a water tap.
Okay, so
He did what I told him he could do.
what this court judgment says is to do this process.
I guess, hold on, guys. Hold on, I'm going to take the floor. I'm going to take the floor for a moment, and we're here to review and discuss the Village of Romeo zoning ordinance. Number 482, Article 17, nonconforming uses and nonconforming buildings, and Article 19, administration enforcement.
Correct.
But you're referring to this
All right,
other document and
I'm on to
asking
Article
these
17
questions.
Of the non-compliant.
Let's stick to the topic.
All right, yes. Article 17 says if there's any alterations done to the property, then it's to go to the ZBA, Zoning Board of Appeals. You're supposed to make application to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Has that process been done? Because there were changes done to the property. There were changes done to the consent agreement because it wasn't followed to the word. So then it should have went to a site plan review process in order for it to be received and then granted. That wasn't done.
So
And then number
is there a
19
problem with the ordinance I'm
No.
trying to understand what the,
No, there's no problem with the
so we're
ordinance.
here to review and discuss these ordinances, but there's no problem with the ordinance.
The ordinance was not followed to the word, and that's where I'm at, is there's a process to do it, and it wasn't followed. There's, an application should have been made to the clerk's office, or to the village office, then it gone through the ZBA process, then reviewed, and then granted, if that was the case. And then Article 19 includes the building inspector and the clerk in order to process the information and hand that information out and go through the process. None of that was done. It was just done
So it's not so
completely
much
by-
a concern about the ordinance, it's a concern about the enforcement?
The process, yes, the enforcement of the ordinance, which was not followed. We have, I mean, if that's the case, why ticket people for not shoveling their sidewalks? I mean, it's the same thing. We have these ordinances in place, they should be followed by the steps by the people. If not, throw them all out. That's what I'm saying. It wasn't followed, so if that's the process, I understand what he's telling me back there, but according to this court consent judgment that was processed in Macomb County Court, these are the steps you're supposed to take. And any alteration in those steps should have went through the clerk's office, through a site plan review, the whole 9 yards, but none of that was done. It was just, oh, this is my property here, this is okay, do this, do that. I mean, that's not the process, that's not our ordinance. And that's what I'm saying, it was just a cluster, but, you know, if you guys say it's okay, I disagree with it, because this court consent.
Well,
judgment-
we have trustee Fowler, the village has addressed it, we have looked at it. I understand that you don't agree. But that's where it's at.
I beg to differ. Yes, show me the map, because I beg to differ, because on number one, he says they have 2 parcels of land.
Yes,
2 parcels.
and the sewer and water taps are both on his parcel.
The parcel on 313, I used to own 313.
Right there, Dick.
Yeah, I used to own
So
313.
here's the property line, right here.
I used to-
Sewer and water taps are on 315.
The sewer and water lands are on 313. I own
No, they're not.
313.
I was there when he did the sewer and water.
And you're wrong.
Is this right next to your residence, Zach?
I used to own 313. Dickinson bought the property from Bill Parker. Mike Clairhart owned 315, the second parcel. If that water line was on Mike's property when he owned it, he would have ran water back there long ago. But instead, he used my garden hose to run water back to his property because I own 313 Dickinson. So.
Okay, hold on. No,
hang on.
no,
In
I'm
order
gonna,
to eliminate
no,
this
I'm gonna take
discussion-
some order
in
here.
order to eliminate this
Excuse me,
discussion,
trustee Fowler, I'm
a
taking
survey
order. You
would
can,
resolve the whole
you can
thing.
be removed? Would you like to be removed?
It is a personal issue.
Okay.
Site plan would
Hire an
solve the whole
attorney.
thing. That's all I'm saying.
Mr. Clark, could you please clarify the duties of the council versus whose duty it is to enforce?
I first
Do you
want
want-
to make sure I have identified the problem or the concern, because it may not be a problem. So I'll ask trustee Fowler, are we talking about paragraph 3 of the consent judgment?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so under paragraph 3, the plaintiffs, and this was, by the way, approved by the village and approved by the property owner back in 2019 in October, to resolve some litigation that was then pending. In paragraph 3, it says the plaintiff shall have the right to tap into the defendant's water, the defendant being the village, water and/or sewer lines as they presently exist on Dickinson Street. So if those lines existed, the plaintiffs who are, and the judgment is a matter of record, it's a public document, it's Trailside LLC and Robert V. Rogers. So the plaintiffs have the right to tap in or use those residential water and sewer services upon obtaining the necessary permit or permits and paying the applicable fee or fees. So if there aren't any permits required and there aren't any fees required, then I'm struggling to see what the violation is. If it's not a new tap, if it's an existing tap, if those were there, and I don't know.
Right.
I'm going to assume the taps were there, but I believe we have people with much more knowledge than I do about the physical condition of the property.
And my question, Mr. Clark, is without a site plan or a survey, how do we know? I know for a fact when I owned that property, that water tap was on my property, 313 Dickinson. Now the conversation is, no, it's on 315 Dickinson.
Well,
I mean,
again, I'm not going to, I don't have the
Yes,
ability to argue
correct.
the
But I'm
facts with
saying,
you.
without the proper survey or a site plan review, how do we know? We're
but there-
gonna just take the word for it?
But, no, under the terms of the, under the terms of the consent judgment,
Correct.
there is no requirement for a site plan.
You're absolutely correct. It says obtain the necessary permits and permits by paying the applicable fees.
So,
So
right, so
it-
if there aren't any permits required, then I would hope there wouldn't be any fees required if there aren't any permits required. Yeah, you know.
But how do we
permit,
know
give
no
us
permits
money.
are required if the property does not have that water tap on it, 315 Dickinson?
But
See,
again,
and that's-
I'm
that's
not
the
gonna,
question.
I'm not gonna weigh in on where the physical tap or taps are located. The consent judgment presumes that there are taps on the plaintiff's property. If those taps are not on his property, then that would be a factual dispute that you would have to, I guess, go back to the court and say to the judge, he tapped into lines that weren't his, that didn't exist, he didn't apply for permits, he didn't apply or pay any fees, and the judge would have to decide that.
Right,
So
and as far as
besides
the village's.
consent judgment,
No,
I guess
excuse
the
me.
other part of it would
Excuse
be
me,
the
I'm going to
article-
speak. As far as the village understands and as far as the village knows, the taps are on the property. As far as our supervisor has gone out and physically viewed, and we've looked on the county's website of parcel
And they're on
IDs.
which property, Mr. President? There's two lots. There's 313 and there's 315. He owns them both. I used to own 313. 315, there were no water taps at all.
Yes, there is, Zach. They put
Three
two in,
fif-
when they put the water mains in, they put one in for 313, and they put one for 315. It was never hooked up.
You're incorrect.
It was there.
You're incorrect there. Now, there used to be, I own 313. There used to be a house behind it, and I disconnected the tap myself. Disconnected the tap myself. I mean, Chike and the guys used to play cards back there all the time, so I know it.
County court.
I know it. I mean, so.
So I guess my only
I guess
question,
what
Mark,
I'm saying
besides the consent judgment, how you, I
Without
see
the
what
site plan. Go ahead, I'm
Trustee
sorry.
Fowler was talking with Article 17 and 19, non-conforming, if there was alterations made to that site, it clearly says it should have went to ZBA and a site plan review done.
On the face of it, I disagree with that, because the consent judgment is, it gives the plaintiffs the right. It gives them the right to tap into existing residential and sewer service, residential water and sewer service. If those lines existed and they were tapped, those lines, taps were provided for those lines, then the consent judgment has been complied with. You wouldn't, there aren't,
So
there
the
aren't
consent
plans.
judgment then supersedes our ordinance?
Well, what part of the ordinance? What?
Or it says if there's alterations made to non-conforming use, you have to go before the ZBA?
Then
Okay.
this paragraph does supersede the enforcement of the ordinance. Yes, it
Okay.
does.
So number 6 on this thing, prior non-conforming use of the plaintiff's property may continue substantially, no alterations should be done to it. I think that's what Mr. Parker was just indicating. It says non-conforming
Well,
use.
it doesn't say it can't be altered. It says, it says non-conforming use may not be expanded or enlarged. And so, again, you may have a factual issue as to what the property looked like when Mr. Clairhout owned it and what it looks like now. You just might want to be a little circumspect about it,
And I
I'll just
guess
say that.
pertaining to this court document, then it goes back through the process of 17, Article 17 again, to where it needs to go to the ZBA. I mean, improve the property, fine, but go through the process, go through the steps. And that's what I'm saying. There's no steps have been taken with this thing at all. Just everything done.
So in your concern over number 6, we're not including the water or the sewer service lines?
I was just pertaining to what Mr. Parker was.
Okay, and what is that? What?
He just touched on the enlargement of the property in itself.
All right,
The enlargement of the footprint of the property.
I'm confused.
Oh, that's a good place to have you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we beyond number 3, the paragraph 3 in the consent judgment?
Well, I'm still stuck on 3 as far as the procedures of what to do and what wasn't done at our main office. I mean, I think personally that this court document should have been followed to the letter, but it wasn't. There should have been a fee paid to the Village of Romeo, but there wasn't. It was circumvented.
What fee is that?
What fee? A tap-in fee.
The taps are already there. Somebody has already paid for those along the line.
That that water line and sewer line is part of 313 Dickinson.
Just listen to me. I followed what I do with everybody else that comes to me and says, hey, I need sewer and water on my property. If there's sewer and water already there, they can use the existing. There's no fees involved. They hook up to them, I inspect them when they hook them up. If we have to do new taps, we charge them like $4,800 for water and $4,800 for sewer. We do the taps, we cut the road, we run it behind the curb, and leave a stub for him. He did what I told him he could do. I was not aware of any consent to judgment or anything.
There should have been a process, and it wasn't followed.
I followed the process,
And according,
there's always process.
according to the sewer lines at 313 Dickinson and the 2 water taps at 313 Dickinson, they belong to 313 Dickinson. Now, he might own the properties, that's fine, but there still should have been a site plan review of the property.
The GIS map that I looked at shows they're both on 350, that's what I followed.
And
that was our county
you know what?
Okay, it is duly noted that trustee Fowler does not agree with the enforcement of what has taken place with this property thus far. Has also been noted that you are fine with the zone, there is no need to review or discuss the zoning ordinance. I think we're done with this item. Moving on to now the clerk's ordinance discussion. Go back towards the front as we swapped them. This was an item that's been on our agenda
A few months. Me and
6
Mark finally had a
6 months or
chance
so.
to sit down and put it together. Basically, somewhat mirrors what the General Village Law Act does and ties in the Village of Romeo.
So if it mirrors the General Law Village Act, I'm,
Generally, I mean.
okay. So what
tying
about
in
it is
the
not,
Romeo.
what about it does not mirror the act?
Mark? I'm gonna refer to him. He's-
All right.
he's better with that.
I did take the provisions of this ordinance nearly verbatim out of the General Law Village Act. And the reason I did that is because the village doesn't have a charter. It doesn't have a standalone operating document that governs how the village conducts its business. That is provided by the General Law Village Act. And there are home rule villages that do have their own charters. The village is not one of them. Cities have their own charters, and it spells out the duties and responsibilities for the various positions, whether they be elective, appointed, or hired. And so because that template, if you will, the General Law Village Act is already in place, the village can't change much of the General Law Village Act unless it's contained in the act. By way of example, the village, which it did, it's experimented with this, the village can have a village manager. And if it does so, it can choose to have the village manager assume duties of the clerk, the president, the treasurer, some or all of them. You have a little bit of a menu, if you will. You can also have your clerk and your treasurer appointed. So the General Law Village Act does provide for some deviation from the basic structure. So as you go through these sections, if you've looked at them, they are, again, are almost verbatim from the General Law Village Act. Where there are differences and it's not so much that there are differences, it's just these that I'll mention are not in the General Law Village Act. By way of example, under Section 1 of this draft ordinance, it requires the clerk to devote not less than 40 hours per week to his or her duties. There's no specification of time on task in the General Law Village Act. There is also a provision with respect to compensation. And in the General Law Village Act, the clerk, the treasurer can be, their salaries or compensation can be set by resolution or ordinance of this body of the village council. The village, I've got the book with me, I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but I believe the village president and trustees, their compensation can only be set by ordinance. And so the deviations, if you will, or that which is in the proposed ordinance that is not in the General Law Village Act primarily relate to time on task, the hours to be devoted, and the method of compensation that will be by resolution of the village council is determined from time to time, which is permissible under the General Law Village Act. And then the other aspect of it is, I believe there's a provision in here that if the clerk is not doing his or her job, is suspended, then there would be no payment or compensation for the services or services not rendered, if you will. But for the most part, it just, the ordinance just tracks in lockstep the General Law Village Act.
Can I ask a question? President Pez?
Yeah, I guess it's an ordinance about your position at the moment.
Okay, this question is actually going to be directed toward Trustee Parker. For
Specifically provided.
He's choosing
She's
to ignore
asking
me.
you a question.
And so is she. So.
This question is directed to you, Trustee Parker. For the past few months, it's been on the agenda as elected officials pay ordinance. So you gave us the illusion that it was going to be all of elected officials discussed, and now this ordinance is just clearly clerk's ordinance.
Yeah, 'cause
I
at
would
the
like to know why I'm being singled out.
So you're not, it was the position, because there wasn't any ordinance, and if you remember back to the meeting that we had where we were discussing elected officials, this council prescribed me with the duty to sit with Mark and write a clerk's ordinance at that time. That's where the focus has been since that meeting. I don't think the elected officials as a whole, that topic is dead. At that meeting, we voted for me to move forward with Mark on a clerk ordinance. It's not at you, that's what we voted on.
Well, if we passed it, it wouldn't apply to the current clerk until after the next election. Because that's not what she was elected to do. She was elected to follow the old rules. The new rules, you can't just adopt them and force them down when it's an elected position.
This board voted to have me work on a clerk ordinance.
Okay.
When did
I'm just
I'm
letting you
feeling
know.
attacked.
So-
That's what we voted to do, was
Okay.
make a clerk ordinance.
So after-
When or how that goes into effect, I'll leave that to Mark. I'm not sure.
Well, you asked us to give you that power. It's not like we just said, hey, Justin, do this for
Well, I
us.
know
You
we
asked us.
discussed, and we discussed that there was no clerk ordinance, and then that happened. So we moved forward at that time.
Because duties of elected officials are governed by General Law Village Act. Ordinances are for appointed positions. I am not appointed.
So after hearing what Mr. Clark just had to say, there doesn't seem to be a problem, except that you guys want to continue to attack our clerk. That's what I'm seeing.
I don't see that at all.
I see it
Well,
clearly.
And if what trustee Edwards says is true, and it's not gonna go into effect to the next election, how is that attack on our clerk?
I wasn't addressing what Matt had to say, I'm just saying, this is what I'm observing.
Mr. Clark, would that statement be accurate, that it would not go into effect until next election?
I think you can change the compensation as part of your budget process from time to time. So let's just say July 1 to June 30th, because that's your fiscal year. But I think that needs to be spelled out in the resolution. I don't, and again, you're the policymakers, you're the ones charged with the responsibility, but I do have a concern about, there's such a thing as due process, that if I have something and you want to take it away from me, maybe you have the right to take it away from me, but there should be what is called due process. I should have a notice that what it is you're taking from me. I should have an opportunity to be heard about what's being taken from me, and then somebody should make a decision as to whether or not I'm being afforded my due process. The reason I say those things is because I think if you want to attract people to run for the various offices, whether it be trustee, clerk, treasurer, president, if you want people to run for these offices, you want to have some orderliness to the assumption of the office if the person is elected. So can you change salaries? Yes, you can. If you adopted this ordinance tonight, and so now we're in January, you have to publish, and it goes into effect within, on date of publication, so within 15 days, you publish it. You haven't put in here, you can, but you don't have in there, or you'd probably have to adopt a companion resolution as to the compensation. But if you have somebody in office, and again, not talking about the person, the position, if you have somebody in any office, changing the rules in after the game has started might be permissible. It doesn't make it a good idea, but whether the ideas are good or bad are up to you. So the long answer to your question is, I believe the compensation now is set by resolution, and so you would have to adopt a different or separate resolution if you're going to change the compensation. And if you're going to do that, I would recommend you do it on the annual fiscal basis as you determine salaries for department heads or allocate money to negotiate the labor contracts with your employees that are represented. I really think that you have to keep in mind the element or the component of due process, which you won't find the words due process in that ordinance, and you won't find them in any of your resolutions setting compensation. But it's important. The concept is important. But the long answer to your question is, you make another resolution, it's going to change the compensation. I don't recommend it, but I'm just a recommender. I'm not a decider.
That's a separate resolution. And like Mark pointed out, with the exception of the 40-hour week,
Mr. Clark?
the compensation, the resolution from time to time, that is directly out of the General Law Village Act. That's currently what we already follow.
The 40-hour week?
I said with the exception of the 40-hour week.
Okay, because that's,
And
you can't
talking
really
about
put hours on an
talking
elected
about the
position.
compensation in that section where it says from time to time, that's directly out of the General Village Law Act.
Well, I mean, if there's only these 2 or 3 items, why don't we just make this ordinance those 2 or 3 items? It's almost making it more murky than it was claimed to be. We're being redundant in what's already written. If you just want those 2 or 3 things added in, let's just make that ordinance those things.
But we don't have an ordinance, period, at all.
That's what I'm saying, this, put those things in there, just those few that you want. Because the rest of this is all citing general village law. It already exists,
And-
that's
and
already
typically, a lot of
here.
our ordinances mirror the general village law. Why haven't half of them then, right? Because that's what they do, and they're in our ordinances. It's clean, precise, we got it, it's all there. I don't know, I mean, we could say that about a lot of the ordinances, if you just want to
Yeah.
tear them all apart.
But
'cause-
ordinances are for appointed clerks. I'm not appointed. I've spoken to many clerks about this.
Can you point to that somewhere where it states that?
Yeah, I can bring some information to the table, yes.
Does it say that in the general law?
No, it just defines my duties in the general law, and that's what I'm governed by. Appointed clerks have ordinances.
Is it true, Mark?
Mark, I think we looked into that, didn't we? If there could be an ordinance? I don't remember.
I think we're, it's like looking into your bag or your basket after Halloween. You got a lot of different treats in there. And so I don't agree with the statement that Ms. Trapp makes that ordinances only apply to appointed positions. They don't apply to elected officials. As a blanket statement, I disagree with that. Are there some things you can't do with your elected officials by ordinance? Yes. By way of example, you can't make one office the boss of the other office. You can't, there are things you can't do by ordinance, but that doesn't mean that every elected official is immune from an ordinance addressing his or her position. So I disagree with that as a blanket statement. I do agree with what Ms. Trapp said, and it's what I mentioned, I apologize, at length a moment ago, is that all of this has been taken right out of the General Law Village Act. And so the General Law Village Act is your charter. It is your governing document, and this was taken from that. You can't do things in contravention of the General Law Village Act. So, again, you're talking about a number of different things all in the same container, and that sometimes becomes difficult.
So we're just taking the general, theoretically, taking the General Village Law Act and spelling it out as an ordinance with those additions.
Is that a question?
Yes, I'm trying to clarify. I mean, basically, we're not changing the world.
What additions are we talking about?
I think Justin said, if the clerk is suspended, they shall not receive compensation during the period of suspension.
And part of that is general village law act also.
Right, and then devote 40 hours a week to his or her duties. Or is that the only two? That's what I circled. Otherwise, it's all the same. So not much different, really.
I guess it depends on which side you look at that. I mean, they both say, well, it's not that different, and you're going, well, then what's the point? I don't, what would the council like to do with this ordinance? Do you want to?
Guess I'd just soon pass on it.
I'd like for Catherine to bring back what she said she could next month to show whatever she wants to show us. Be interested in that.
So if those are the two differences, my question is, why is that such an issue? Why are we so concerned that if a clerk, again, because this will apply to everybody in the future, it's the position, not the person. If a clerk is so egregious with their duties or neglectful that they have to be suspended, we want to pay them for that time?
But I don't think she is being.
I'm not talking about her. I'm talking
Specifically,
about
the position.
this
Okay,
position.
I still think that all this is just an attack against her. But
This will apply to any future clerk.
Well, I think what it seems is we need to take a breather on it. Let's table it. Let's everyone have some more time to look at it. Clerk Trapp will bring back whatever she wants next month. Let's table it and everybody think on this. It doesn't sound like we're coming to a decision tonight.
And I would be happy to receive what Ms. Trapp has. I'm always willing to be educated. If there's a point that I'm missing or something that I've confused, I want to know that because my responsibility is to give you good and accurate advice. And so I'd be more than willing to receive what she has.
Okay.
So will you bring that to the next meeting, or will you forward that to us sooner?
If I get it sooner, I can forward it.
Okay,
But if not, it would be the next meeting.
okay, thank you.
Okay, so we will table that. We'll keep it on the agenda for next month. We were at the point in the meeting where we,
Motion to adjourn.
motion by Parker to adjourn the meeting,
No trustee comments?
support by Fowler. All in favor? Aye. It is 9:40 PM.